think there's only one, Craig. Is that? Yeah.
One's mine and one would be yours, for instance.
Oh, yes.
It's a follow on this one. Just give it on. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Better not speak too loud. Okay, we're just waiting for a couple of motions to come around the table. Need a pen.
No, because I think they must have it fixed.
Do you have a pen, Kathy? Yeah. All right. Our first our first motion is moved by Craig Middleton and seconded by Susan Irwin that the agenda for the special council meeting held January the 30th, 2023 be approved as, are there any amendments?
No, they're not. Sorry.
Hearing none?
No,
So
not amendment.
approved as presented. All those in favor? Carried.
I'll catch Jodiana to see if she can.
Okay. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in general nature thereof of any item on the agenda by any member of council? Seeing none, we'll note that. There's no staff reports, but I have to say that today is Nikki Gowdy's birthday. So happy birthday, Nikki.
Happy birthday.
Doesn't mean you can't work. It means you have to work harder. Right. Now we're going, whoops, now I'm gone. Hello, hello. Hello.
Oh, there it goes.
Okay, I'm back. Staff reports, developmental updates, and Michael, I believe we're going to start with you. While you're taking that 30 seconds, I just want to say that today we are going to finish capital, and then we're going to go back to our fire, roads, and corporate, whatever else we have started with before. And there will be motions that will put in there what is on, what's out, and then voted on individually by those departments, okay? So we didn't hand those out because it's probably more writing than you want to do. So maybe we should turn over what we had before.
Michael, did you have a copy for me, an updated one of the long sheets or? Thank you, sir. I have the top one, but that's okay.
More paper. Okay, which piece of paper are we starting on, Michael?
So I'll just go through what you were just handed out, Madam Mayor, is the top presentation is what I'm going to bring up on screen and go through initially. And then the next page is, I could have printed out 14 copies of 60 pages per, but I decided to bring everything together onto one page. So what you'll see there in Excel kind of format is the adjustments that we made through multiple sessions sitting down with the department heads. The third one is going to be this little messy one that I can go through slowly. And then we have a report that is capital money that was spent by district. And then as requested from the last meeting, we have the January 19th presentation as it went out originally so that council can compare. I'm just logging into the meeting here.
Okay.
I think that was
And I think today what we should do is, if there are questions, take them as we go instead of trying to save them up.
Yeah.
I'm just clicking on OK, Cindy. Thank you. Should come up here in just a second. Thank you very much for your patience. I'm hoping that'll change here in a second. So what council's seeing on the 2023 draft budget presentation dated January 30th? On the second page, you'll see the version to version adjustments where department heads have adjusted another $484,000 out of the budget to bring us down to 9,572 million from what was originally presented. One second. So the version adjustment again has been adjusted down a little bit, adjustment a little bit, but by $484,000. I adjusted the slide as well, let's go from the department submission, thank you, department submission, the adjustment, and then the next department head team review. And then you'll see the adjustments on the far right for 483,731.
I don't see that number
On the second page, so it is up there.
You're on the,
Try and make it
on
bigger.
the draft budget,
right there,
this one,
483.
the summary.
Summary of adjustments.
Yes.
is
Okay.
On the top, yes.
All right, there's, okay.
There we go.
Everybody's got it?
Slightly bigger now, sorry. So everybody can see that,
Yes.
I'm gonna assume, okay?
Yeah.
So on the next slide is our summary of the budget now in the far left column at 9.572
Next page.
versus the 9,328, and I'm just talking about millions here. So right now we're at a $243,000 increase over 2022's final budget, or 2.6% levy increase.
Wow. Can you go back to the summary of adjustments and just give us a basic idea of what represents these cuts? Like, where did that come from? Not in a lot of detail, but like, was it, you looked at technology or buildings or cemeteries, or like, what was looked at to come up with those savings?
Madam Mayor, everything was looked at. Operating capital, most of it came out of operating. We did have, last year when we did the budget, obviously nobody's a fortune teller, but I didn't think the interest would be as high as it was. We probably have to double check, but somewhere in the range of $200,000 more than what we had budgeted for. So that was a big increase. 70,000, we increased that from the original in the draft budget was 180, and we put that up to 250,000. That was probably the biggest adjustment. We increased Part 8 septic inspection permits by 40,000. Fuel and loops, we increased by 50 to come closer to actual, so that kind of offset one of those. Salary full-time for planning, junior planner, we took that out. Transfer from reserves, we increased by 132,000. So those would be the biggest ones.
Okay.
And obviously that detail is there for everyone to look at and ask questions.
Just keeping in mind that 5 of us are brand new, so it's like, well, where did that money come from? So if I ask questions that I think they should know, that's what I'm going to be doing.
Absolutely. No question is a stupid question. It's a lot of learning for everybody.
Yeah. Philip?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
So just to clarify, this includes revenues and expenses.
Correct.
So the 40,000 you're seeing as a negative isn't a reduction of building, but it's an increase because of revenues.
It is, so Madam Mayor, Councillor Smith, it does look like a negative, but it is $40,000 increase in revenue. And we can see that more clearly when we're actually looking at the report. Yep.
Okay. All right, onward.
Okay. So we already touched on that. So just going into a little bit more detail on the summary, the 2.6% levy increase, which really is the dollar that comes out of each of our taxpayers' pockets, equals the 243,000. So on this presentation dated January 30th, I left the original numbers in there, so you can see that it was 7.8 and was $727,000 levy increase.
Michael, just want to stop you for a moment.
I-
That screen that he's talking about highlights is part of the paid in that package that he's given you today.
Yes,
Okay.
because I know that sometimes on the screen here, it doesn't come as across as clear, so we were trying to get paper as well.
That's good because you can't always read what's
No.
on the screen.
Okay, so the operating budget is now increasing by $845,000 or 11% versus, I think it was 15%, apparently didn't leave that in there, but was 1.1 million. The draft capital budget is now a decrease of 601,000 versus 392. And the overall tax rate is increasing by 0.9%, which was 4.7. And in the end, combined with what we know about the county and municipal or education rate right now, so all three together, is now an increase of $13 versus 62 for every 100,000. And you can see in the bottom there what that impact would be on the average property is $21. And again, the broccoli, right? Everything goes up.
Any questions on that page? Okay, we can always come back to those.
Right.
Okay, reserves.
So the only thing that I added here was, obviously I mentioned that in 2023, we're pulling a lot of money from reserves, which is not ideal for my comfort level. But I understand.
Can I just stop you there
Yeah,
for a
sure.
moment? Are those reserves that you're pulling based on jobs that didn't get done in a previous year? So created a surplus and we're now putting the jobs back in and bringing in the reserves.
So right now, the money, Mayor, from transfer from reserves does not include the unfinished projects. So that's an entry that there's one more 2022 batch to do. So I don't know the final number, so I can't put that into reserve. So this original estimate of 6.2 probably should be around 6.8. But that's, in my mind, overinflated reserve because we're just pulling it out in 2022. So this is the more accurate picture.
It doesn't help me get that straight. So the 2021 surplus
Yes,
went into reserves.
it went into reserves, yes.
And then in 2022, we brought some of that out
A good,
to do the jobs that we had taxed for the previous year.
correct, a good chunk.
Are we doing that same thing this year?
In some cases, yes. So the unfinished projects will be pulled out. There is, even if it's not unfinished, there is money that we've set aside in reserves over the years that we have pulled out to offset different projects. But mostly we're pulling from reserves to do everything that's in the budget. So it's not really from a past year. And I as time goes on, I'm getting a clearer picture and I fully expect a good sized deficit.
And just to explain to council, in municipal world, if you have a deficit, you have to pay that off the top. And then the rest of your budget goes from there. So it's not good to have a deficit. You can't spread it out. You have to cover it the year it is.
Yes,
The
we have
following
a surplus deficit policy where it, regardless of whether it's a surplus or a deficit, we either put it into reserves in the following year or we pull it from reserves. So the net of 3.5 almost here will go down also by that deficit being pulled out in 2023.
Does that help or does that muddy the waters more? Okay. Helps me.
So the slide that's up there right now, just to give council a more accurate picture of the net total of reserves, would be the 3.5, which is 34% of our operating expenses, which doesn't sound bad there. But reserves should be used to fund our capital asset purchases, to borrow from internally, especially in the higher interest rate times like now, and or to cover emergencies. Because if a bridge on 38 went and it was $2 million, we'd have to borrow a loan, take a loan out. I mean, there's ways to do it, but living beyond our means.
Okay.
And the other slide honestly didn't change a whole lot, other than the last page, I believe it is, on the increases is mentioned at the top.
Before you go there,
Yep.
can you just one more time explain obligatory reserves?
Obligatory reserves are ones that we don't have control over, and is the simplest way to say it. Cemetery funds, we can't use that. We can't, as council, decide how to spend it. Parkland fund, it's dedicated to specific, like recreation. And there's also, which aren't on here, the arena, which I just showed that portion on our financial statements, and oh, there's another one, well, Parkland.
Yeah, I think the parkland too, just for council, especially for our newer members, is that's where the, you know, when you do the severances and there's the 5% parkland fee paid, that's where that money comes from, and it has to go into the parkland reserves. Okay, so that means that you can't spend it only on park purposes.
So that's all the obligatory funds that you can think of.
The 355,000 there, yes.
Yeah, okay, good.
So the next slide being debt, that didn't change. Capital assets didn't change. So then the last page is increases. The insurance, I highlighted the areas that I changed on here or added for information purposes. Everything else. So fuel, I believe that was there last time in terms of 2K more than actuals. Insurance is 38,000 more than actuals. And the reason for that is I think it went up by about 6%, but also if we have any claims that we have to pay deductibles, it's generally 5,000, if not 10,000. So 2 or 3 claims throughout the year would use that extra up in no time.
Did we go through, Michael, the debt?
I just skipped over it because it didn't have any change from last time. It's the same information.
Okay, I think we should just take a look at it just for a few minutes. What is being paid off in 2023 is the fire equipment loan, the public works equipment loan. So we're still going to be left with Crow Lake Road is in 2025, 2029 for the medical center, and 2031 for, what is that, 2021 loan?
It's the loan that, yes, that's what I called it.
Okay, that's,
It wasn't for any particular project. It was really to keep taxes lower and still get some different multiple projects in. So it wasn't dedicated to one specific capital project.
okay. And I just want to add here a comment about when we get grants. You can put a grant in and you don't know if you're going to get it, but when you do get it, you have to match funding of some degree. Sometimes it's 50-50, sometimes it's 20%. Most of the time, you haven't got that money in your budget, so you have to borrow money if you want to get the grant. And that's what happens with big road projects, like the one we did.
Fifth Lake Road and Wagerville.
Yes, and the village here.
Right.
That had been 20 years on the idea board and couldn't be done because it was such a huge cost until we got a grant. But then we had to borrow, what, $1 million in order to access that grant.
Yeah, the one in Wagerville now, I want to say it was around 1 point something. I'd have
Yeah.
to look back.
So that, you know, the media always says we're in debt, but yes, we are. But when those grants have come, we took advantage of them and we didn't have the money to match them. So it's fine to say we'll do things when grants come, but you have to pay your share. And when you don't have it in the bank, you have to borrow it.
I very much agree, Madam Mayor, that when those grants come, that's a worthwhile point to take out a debt. And the other page that we'll go through later, just the capital expenses by district, those bigger projects that you see there that we just mentioned were only available because of grants. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gotten done.
Yeah. Okay. Did we do capital assets?
I did nothing, no information changed there, Madam Mayor.
Any questions on that by anyone? Again, people may have taken it home and come up with some questions on the side. Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on.
So on the increases tab, the highlighted sections are information that was added. We'll go through it as we go through the operating budget more so, but let's just highlighted the changes on there. Everything else stayed the same.
Question on insurance. Are we going to be re-quoting that or re-tendering that?
I believe we just did recently within the last year or two, so I think we're on that 3 to 5 year cycle with Aon, who,
Right.
and I don't know if I mentioned this yet for the new council's benefit, but we're saving when we went out like 7 years ago, $150,000 a year, I think it was, by going with Aon, and their prices have not been unreasonable compared to the market in terms of increases.
And this amount is not that huge?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
No.
Good. Sand and salt is an unknown. You hope you have enough in the pile.
Hopefully.
Any questions or comments on this page? Craig,
What is the actual budget for sand and salt? This just says 260K more than 2022 actuals.
I'll get that for you in just a second.
we will be going through the operating of roads and fire and all of the departments, but if he can get it right now, that's,
Yep, so right now in the 2023 budget, it's 666,000. We had 530,000 in the 2022 budget, so it's $136,000 increase. And 2023 budget versus 2022 actuals is 262 more, but that's sand and salt combined for all the roads.
okay. All right. Let's go on then. Now you studies, let's talk about that. Recreation study of 30,000, roads needs study of 50, strategic plan of 30, development charge to the county, 35,000. And that was 32 was raised in 2022. And county communal permitting system, 25,000. Those are all things we're going to have to make decisions on before we finalize the budget, right?
Yeah.
As of right now, those are all in the budget.
Correct.
Philip?
Thank you. The recreational needs study, is that being taxed for, or is that coming from Parkland, or can that come from Parkland?
Good question.
No, that's a good question. I'm not sure if it can come from that, but we can certainly check that. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Check that out.
Currently, we are pulling the marina operating money from reserves. I can't think of what that dollar amount is right now, but we did do that for a number of years, and I think it was like 6,000 before. Now it's a lot more. So
And these are estimates.
Yes.
Once you go out to tender or quotation, they could be double or they could be less. Let's hope. All right, anything else? Now there's a number that new counselors wouldn't have seen, salary and benefits together. And instead of adding them up in all the departments, is 455,000. And that's everything went up. Omer's, COLA's, all that, new junior planner and new part of section 8, but the planner's gone.
Yes, planner's gone.
Okay, Nikki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Michael, I noticed in all the operating lines that Omer's took a huge hit. Could you explain that huge increase for me, please?
through Madam Mayor, Councillor Gowdy, yes, the rate itself didn't change. Adding new positions would change. Like, so every year when we add a new position, we try and only budget for what we're going to use that year, not budget for the whole year. So some of those new positions were budgeted for 6 months or 4 months, and now they're added months there for OMERS. We're now required to offer OMERS to every employee other than contract, so that's added to it as well.
Yeah, the rules changed.
But did OMERS not take a big jump a couple of years ago?
It might have been a mayor, I don't recall specifically.
Okay,
I think it did.
anything else? All right, what's next? I think it's Andy's Development Services, or have you got more to go through here, Michael?
Well, just quickly, I don't know if we want, Madam Mayor, we already kind of went through the version to version adjustment. We're going to go through the operating individually, so maybe we can kind of skip that second page that was in the handout.
Okay. And that was,
There's no title on it. It just starts listing account numbers.
okay, the long sheet.
No.
The
The
short
short
one,
sheet.
letter size.
Okay. So we'll come back to this one.
Yeah, that'll be for operating tomorrow.
Awfully small print.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I'll try and bring the one up here.
so let's just look at capital expenditures. This is more for information for each of the municipalities. And Michael, you had, or district, sorry,
Pardon?
you had a comment about percentages between each other.
Yes, and I was just trying to bring this actual one up. Sorry, I'm having difficulty finding the PDF.
Or that could just be something that folks could have a look at on their own, and any questions could bring it back next meeting.
Yeah, ultimately, they can, obviously. The only comment I'll make is that, again, the big projects that were done through grants. If they weren't done, the spending would be pretty much even per district. And the assessments I looked at this morning after discussing with the deputy clerk, and the assessment per district is pretty bang on to each other within a couple percentage points. So just another piece of information.
Good. Okay. All right, so we are at Andy.
Yes, let's go to Andy.
Pardon? We're done at this point. He'll be back. For now. Yeah, that's a take home just to have a look at. So we go back to our previous sheets, I believe. Yes.
To the chief, that was with 110.
Okay,
Some of that stuff is the same, he's updated on.
good.
Pretty well done.
Yeah. There's a
Yeah, but which one is he looking at? So,
capital for facilities.
oh,
Package was that in? There's corporate.
Good afternoon, council. Sorry, I didn't print off my slides here for you, but hopefully it's big enough on the screen to see. This is a list of the buildings that I oversee. It isn't all the buildings, it's just the major ones. And that number at the top of the page there, that 2,600,000 is what was forecast from the building condition assessment over the next 10 years. And that just includes the buildings on this page. It doesn't include any other ones.
okay, just a moment. The last time that we did it's this one here, where we had expenses, the fire and everything. It's the second page, it's the facilities.
Yes.
Facility services, that's where all the capital is. Tell me the next page. Right, you see down, right there? There it is there. That's what he's going through. Oh, that he's, no, that's just a 10-year maintenance forecast. No,
Home and get it, whatever. Don't care.
yeah. Yeah. And I think that is your forecast. That's not the individual lines. I was looking at the individual
No,
lines here.
this is not, you won't find these in your package there that you have.
Okay.
This is just a summary.
That's just a summary of a forecast, yeah.
I guess the problem is most of us can't see that.
Okay.
Why don't we? I didn't bring my computer. I knew we'd have a pile of paper. Yes,
Through Madam Mayor, Andy, there's this presentation that you have right up here with the forecast of a 10-year maintenance forecast of anything to do with the 2023 budget.
No, this is just an overview of what our building condition assessment recommends that we spend over the next 10 years.
and there's a
Yeah,
whole,
and the stuff that's on our capital program here, like Kennebec Rink, Canteen Oliver Scott, Eagle Lake Street Lighting, Kennebec Ramp, Hall Library. That's what we're actually going to discuss for 2023 budget.
We can, yes.
Yeah, okay, no, just so
I just wanted to go over a quick overview. I've got four slides here. And then we can jump to that.
okay,
So the buildings on this list here at the forecast is 2.6 million over 10 years. If you average out the age of these buildings, the average age is 50 years old. Many of them are older. That's where unforeseen repairs can pop up. Next slide. On this slide here is a list of the capital projects that I feel are most important, from the top of the list being most important to the bottom of the list being least important.
can you just read those out to us, Andy?
Yes.
Quickly?
The municipal office, I've got 15,000 to replace the furnace. That's already been completed. It was an emergency repair. The oil tank had expired and the furnace needed some other repairs, so we switched it out to propane. The medical center, I've got 40,000 to replace part of the roof. The roof leaked last spring. It's just not a very good design. There's valleys that run into walls. And I just received the engineering to fix that part of the roof there today. The beach band shell, it's missing a lot of shingles off the roof, so it needs to be replaced, and they've also requested that the floor be done as well. So I've got 30,000 in for that.
Can we get volunteers to work on that?
The flooring, maybe. I wouldn't advise it for the roof.
What if they're carpenters already?
It's a possibility.
Okay.
The Olden rink, got 30,000 in there to move the services to the main building. That's an unfinished project from last year. It's a safety hazard, the way the setup is there now, with the water being in the same room with the electrical panel.
Sorry, Bill? Question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. If I may go back for a minute to the medical center. I'm coming across three different amounts for the medical center roof, 25, 40, and 60. Are those all piecemeal repairs for like 125?
There should be, maybe Michael can help me out there. My next item on the list was an accessible bathroom upgrade for the medical center at 15,000. So that would bring the total for the medical center to 55,000.
Yeah, but these three all say for the roof, 25,000, 40,000, and 60,000. They're not related to bathrooms. That was my question. Is there an extra one in there, or are they piecemeal repairs?
The roof and the bathroom, one project. What document are you looking at?
Okay, I'm looking at that slide where it says 40,000. Where did I put this one? This one says 60,000 and this one says 25,000.
So in the capital project one, the one that's starting with there now. For sure, you put the $1 down, and then kind of broken down inside.
Well, yeah, that was my question. There are three different amounts. Are they all related or are they all separate?
I believe they're all related to the medical center. They're just broken down into
To stages of the
different
repair?
projects.
Okay, so like the 60,000 might be the maximum amount with a, no, that doesn't make sense to me either.
Michael has it.
So the $60,000, $40,000 for roof repair shingling and $20,000 for accessible bathroom, which is your total of the 60. So there's only one $60,000 in there for capital project.
Okay, the 25. Apologies, the 25,000 one that says for the roof?
25 probably would have been last year.
Oh, okay,
Likely.
thank you.
Yeah.
Good question.
Um,
Okay.
I've also got 20,000 in to refinish the floors in this building. I've got 10,000 in for engineering for future projects. I think it's important to have plans ready for when grants become available. Often the timelines are tight, and if you don't have a project that is ready to go, then you're going to miss the deadline to get the grant. I probably mostly accessibility projects for community halls. We're supposed to be AODA compliant by 2025. We've got a long way to go there with our buildings. Fob access for this building here, so we could actually remotely unlock the door. Often this building is rented multiple times in the day. Sometimes people lock the door when they leave and we get called. We got to come unlock the door, and if there isn't people available.
Just to add to that, Andy, and I've been a part of it when there's a dance or something, for instance, and people bring in their alcohol and they set everything up and then they can't lock the door. So somebody has to stay. With those types of events, would it not be wise that they could have a key to come back? Because typically they booked it for the day and they can't just leave it unattended. So it becomes a problem trying to lock the door, which they can't because they don't have a key to get back in.
The trouble with giving somebody a key is they can make copies of it, and then we end up with
Could we have
everybody
one,
having keys.
could we have one door different that it would be cheap to change a lock if that happened?
We are looking at purchasing lock boxes to put on the wall with a key inside where we can reprogram the code as another option,
Yeah.
a cheaper option. That way there would be a key there, and if somebody phones, they can't get in, we can just tell them this is the
Okay.
code, and they can
Change it next day.
and we can change it between venues.
Excellent. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Last on my list was digitizing the building permit files. With all the properties changing hands lately, I'm constantly getting requests for to close out old open files that often are difficult to find records for in the basement. I've got about 15 bankers boxes in the basement from the last 20 years that contain building permit files. So I'd like to get those scanned so I can access them from my desktop.
Okay. Any questions on that list? Philip?
Just how much would if you're looking at the medical center roof, how much would the entire roof be?
The entire,
The entire roof, it would be more than double. Most of this work is to re-engineer some roof trusses. There's about 6 roof trusses that need to be cut and have gussets. A lot of work done inside the attic to redirect the flow of water away from the second story of the building. Right now, it's running right into the wall there and it's rotting the wall out. But yeah, the shingles aren't in too bad a shape. I would think you could get another 10 years out of the remainder of the roof, but obviously it would be more cost effective to do the entire roof at the same time.
Okay.
But
I just have a question on a list that we had from before, not one of your priorities, is fairground fencing. Is that our responsibility to be doing?
Mhm.
Why is that? Oh. Did we put it up initially? Or did the fair board put it up initially?
This is around the playground, what I believe the rec committee is asking.
No, they want fencing along Wegerville Road. That fence got taken down and never got replaced. It was falling down. It was in major disrepair. And Terry took it down and then they never ever replaced it. So when there's events there and you have to have security, it's easy to sneak in
Okay,
because you
so
could
it's
just,
page wire fence,
it was just a page wire fence. Yep.
and that cost $10,000?
Fencing around playground, by road and ball field.
Oh, so it's more than just along the road.
Sure, I have to.
Is it different fence at each place? Or,
the ball field is chain link and around the playground is chain link. And at the road, there's nothing right now, so it could be whatever
page wire?
we prefer.
Nikki?
But could we they're not happy with the fence around the playground. Could we not take that fence down and repurpose it on the road? So then we're only paying for the labor to move it.
It's possible. I don't know if there would be enough there to do the road with it.
Can we add to it? Is it type of fencing we could buy extra?
Yeah, we could do that.
Pardon?
Sorry, could volunteers do that, Andy? If the rec committee,
Sure.
because they are the ones that feel so strongly about the fence around the playground, if they wanted to take it down and repurpose it across the front
Mhm.
and have a B, would they be allowed to do that?
Sure.
I don't see an issue with doing that.
As long as we have their names as volunteers, they're covered by our insurance policy.
Okay. I'll bring
So,
that up.
yeah, a B. You might even get other rec committees coming to help.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, good. Any other questions or comments? Okay, Yes.
Here beside me.
yes,
Initially, we had $100,000 for an LED lighting project for all of our facilities. It was coming from reserve. Because it was intending on saving us money, so I thought that was a good use of reserve. We just got the information, so I added that back in. It's still coming from reserve with any capital project done now. The reason I added it back in is they threw an incentive, i.e. had no idea $9,300 savings. And then they would estimate about $10,000 savings per year between repairs, somebody going out with the cost of product. And I didn't look at it in detail, but any comments this morning, there was at least 5 of them we worked on here. The cost may actually be more, but if you're saving $10,000+ a year.
and we have to start somewhere. We're not going to complete them all in 1 year anyway. So it's probably an ongoing project.
Hoping not.
Well, you do that. Okay, any other questions on that? Okay, let's take a 5-minute stretch. And then we'll, oh, I'm sorry.
I've got two more
Oh, sorry,
slides up
Andy,
here.
I'm
and,
sorry.
you go to-
I was finished, so I thought you were.
You go to the next slide. All right. This is a list of projects that have been cut from previous budgets. I just thought it'd be good for council to see that they've been on the radar, but they haven't been completed. Piccadilly Hall is the only hall that doesn't have a automated external defibrillator. Olden Hall doesn't have a range hood. I'd recommend putting one in with a fire suppression system. It's something the health unit's been asking for. Piccadilly Hall also doesn't have a range hood. canteen at Oso Ball Field doesn't have a range hood with the fire suppression. I saw it on some of the requests there about having public Wi-Fi at the community halls. That's about $500 to install the equipment at each one, but there would be ongoing operating cost of, I'm not sure how much per month for Wi-Fi. But yeah, I'm sure it'd be at least $50 a month as an operating cost if that was installed. This hall already has it.
It's not.
Fob. Go ahead.
So it's-
These are items that have been cut from every, well, for the last
Previous
3 or 4 years. Fob access to all community halls, Wi-Fi would be required for that. That would allow us to unlock all the halls from the office. Or program them to be open for the hours that the hall is rented. Design a master key system for the buildings in the township. That would be handy. It would save on a lot of keys if we had a master key that would unlock any building in the township. Emergency lighting was one thing that was identified in the building condition assessment. It's a code requirement now. All public bathrooms are supposed to have emergency lighting. But we can do that as we do other upgrades to the buildings. And something that's been on my list for a while was a ventless fryer for the Oso canteen, but they're about $20,000. So it's been cut every year. And I feel things like that, we should have a recreation policy, you know, if they can fundraise a certain amount. I believe it was Brent Cameron that suggested it very previously. If they could fundraise a certain amount, then council would commit to a certain amount for items like that.
Can I just ask one question on your list? And I've asked this probably every year for many years when the new hoods for the kitchens come up. How many of our halls actually have people that cook in the hall?
That's a good question.
I don't think Olden has too many that cook other than the kettle. But usually if they're having an event, they bring their own food. Well, my next question is a follow-up to that is if you put a household electric stove in each of the halls, do you have to have a $10,000 hood over top of them?
The stoves are already there. If there's a grease fire and there's no suppression, it's you could lose the building. These are things that have been cut. It's on my radar, but
Could we put a fire extinguisher on each side of the stove?
there are fire extinguishers there, but
So then I think we need to really take a look at, do we use the kitchens and pull the stoves out? Like this stove just takes up a lot of space and it's huge and doesn't really get used. I think the Lions use it when it's barbecue time or when it isn't barbecue time.
Is the big one, yeah.
Yes, Arden does. Does
We use
Olden?
it for pancakes, every pancake breakfast for the Lions there as
Right.
well.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and the fire alarm does go off here.
if it was a new kitchen, if we were installing a new kitchen in the hall, it would be a requirement. Because anything that produces grease laden vapors needs to have a fire suppression system, but the only reason they don't, they're grandfathered because they're existing.
We will never be redoing our kitchens. Bill,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You might want to explain too that the fire suppression is totally different than a fire extinguisher. The chemical
And the fire suppression is automatic.
Mhm.
You
But
don't-
it's Halon too, as opposed to
Correct.
the regular ABC.
Yeah.
No. Chief says no. Chief says no. Chief will explain it.
Sorry, Mike. That's all right. Just through you, Madam Mayor, just to clarify to council. So it's a UL 300 system. Halon's gone in the past, but so anything to do with grease, light and vapors, you're required to have a suppression system. So if you have these stoves in here and they're not cooking with bacon or anything that produces grease, they're good. They're fine. There are cheaper systems out there that you can get that are around the $3,500 range, but the thing is, you've got to have the coverage over the stove. So if you just have a domestic stove, that system would work. It has a siren built into it and so on. I forget the name of it now. I gave it to you.
Yeah, that's what I'm basing this on, but
So,
there's an
yeah.
installation cost and ducting through the roof.
Yeah,
That's why.
so, but the actual commercial system is, and there's a biannual certification that has to be done on them as well.
Oh,
Every 6 months.
Lynn,
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I don't see the Kennebec Hall listed as needing one. What system do they have right now on their,
Kennebec has the full
We have it.
commercial kitchen setup.
okay.
It would cost over 20,000 to install a unit like that.
I thought our system looked pretty good. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
okay. Any other questions, Bill?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I could go back a sec. Is a fob access unit not a master key system at the same time? I mean, unless the power goes out, you have a master key system.
Currently, we do not.
No, but if you get the fob system,
The fob system consists of an electric strike that is controlled through the internet.
no, I realize, so you're still getting access through the office or through an actual key fob. Do you have to replace door locks if the key fobs are programmed anyway?
If you wanted a backup key to get in without carrying around 100 keys, a master key system would also be required.
Right, that's my point. It's now two master key systems though, so in a sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions or comments? Do you have one more to go?
One more, yeah. This isn't capital, this is more operation, but just some improvements that I could see in my department. If we brought part 8, septic permits and inspections in-house, last year, South Frontenac brought in approximately 85,000 in revenue. The septic reinspection program, it's not a cost that increases taxes, but it does cost over $30,000 and is billed $100 per inspection to the residents. I haven't received a lot of good feedback about it. I'm really not in favor of the program, and it does take staff time away from other things that they could be doing.
Residents around the lake are really for the program.
You are correct there.
I'll tell you, I wasn't, and I live on the lake.
You were,
Uh,
but you are now? No,
My feeling is we have enough regulations to enforce without creating new ones that aren't mandated by the province, but.
let's see what the result was and what they found over the previous year before we decide to,
Council will be getting a report on that
yes.
shortly.
Nikki?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Where can I find the expenses for septic reinspection? Which page?
Hello, through Madam Mayor to Councilor Gowdy. In 2019, we had 18,500 revenue and 23,500 expense, so it cost $5,000. I don't have the actual expenses for 2022 yet, but we budgeted 30 revenue and 40 expense. So we're budgeting a $10,000 cost
Okay,
overall.
so it's not a lot of money to keep the program for the lake people that seem to be very Most lake people, I'm sorry, Craig.
So what's not in here is the administrative time and the cost to that. But you're also not seeing the environmental benefit in here to look at both sides, all the whole information. So what's that true cost? It's not just $10,000.
Craig,
Through Madam Mayor, and that doesn't take into the cost of the taxpayer or the homeowner. Your 40,000.
So we have 30,000 revenues. That is what we get from the homeowner, and we have 40,000 expense budgeted. So a net cost of $10,000 is what we budgeted in 2022.
Okay, got it now.
Plus the administrative time, but again, I'm trying to look at all sides of the situation. There's environmental impact as well, and I don't know what that true impact is if we do nothing or if we move forward.
we'll have to have a meeting on that.
That'll, yeah, it's a whole separate topic.
Anything else?
Planning department, I think we could benefit if we had a planner in-house. It would offset some of the costs from the county. It would speed up service delivery to the residents. With Bill 23, there you've seen all the changes that are coming down. If we had somebody in-house, I think things would go a lot smoother. There's a community planning permit system coming up. In a sense, that would delegate the approval process to a staff member at the township rather than the county level. And it would create local employment. Planners are difficult to find right now. But if that wasn't an option and we did bring Part 8 in-house, we could probably get by with having hiring a new permit coordinator for building permits and planning permits.
But we have no choice about bringing Part 8 in because it's coming, right? This year or next year.
Yeah, there are options, but ultimately it's Central Frontenac's responsibility to make sure that somebody issues the permits and completes the inspections. That can be contracted out or it can be done in-house.
Right. Philip, did you have a question?
Good, thank you. So the septic inspections, that's getting a report coming back to council with the options.
Yes, there is. They're going to be, and there's going to be some options. Absolutely.
Okay. And with the planning, I think it would be beneficial perhaps if we do an evaluation of what the county's already offering for planning services.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we have to budget for a person this year, but I think doing the study, whether it's us internally going through what the workload is of the county and what's required from the municipality and looking at that to determine whether that contract still makes sense for us. And then maybe in 2024, look at hiring a planner if that's what our outcome is from reviewing everything.
For sure. And I think I do have lists what Joe Gallivan has done for probably 2 or 3 years, exactly what the cost is for planning for each of us for the contract. So for North, Central, and the islands. So that's broken down with the amount of hours. So I will be bringing that to council as well.
And it's been a crazy couple of years for planning and for building, and maybe it will settle down all the way around, but who knows? Dan?
If we hire our own planner, Andy, does that cut down the workload for Frontenac County planners, or do we still deal with them through maps? Do we still deal with Jenny and Sonia, or does that bring everything in-house in our township?
It wouldn't be everything. They still would have to do the high level stuff like subdivisions and things like that.
For your normal residential building permits, so we can do that in our own township?
For variances and
Variances, yeah.
things like that. Yeah.
Thank you.
If I can just add to that for Councillor Meeks, the billing from the county is based on a 3-year average. So if we did hire our own planner and did use less hours, we probably won't see a huge impact for 2 to 3 years.
All right. Anything else on that list?
That's all my slides.
Okay. That's good. Are we ready to take a little, say 5-10 minute break? stretch and bathroom break? Okay, let's do that. Let's turn off our mics. Okay, we're back to work. Lynn and Dan, we need you at the table.
There he comes.
All right.
And Andy.
Andy
Michael,
was
are you
done,
ready?
wasn't he? Okay,
Put that
and
on.
where do we find that?
Well, I'm gonna bring it up on screen if that's okay. Otherwise, it's in that capital project line item detail, the bigger legal fee. Yeah, the one that you're looking at could be first page.
This
Oh, yeah,
one,
okay.
right at the beginning.
Um,
It's not, it doesn't have as many projects on it,
No.
but this
So,
one.
so the first one is the $10,000 for the Harvey Barber Shop purchase renovation.
Just front page,
Speak
first
a little bit,
Just
but-
hang on for a
Just a
moment
minute.
till we make sure everybody's got it.
Since Craig, yeah, it's the first
Yeah.
page.
Okay, ready to go. This one.
Didn't see your picture on
Okay.
that screen, Michael.
Okay, we are ready.
Coffee was hot.
Okay, so I'm going to be like a sloth now, apparently. The $10,000 is the walkway for the Harvey Barber Shop. Something that needs to be done. The decision criteria module, the $15,000 there is a carryover of the 2022 project. That's through, thankfully, the province gave us the municipal modernization fund phase 3, which means obviously they've done it 3 times. And that one is paying for the recreational booking software and this decision criteria module that is almost up and running. That really says it's another section of citywide, so our asset management software that says you have X budget based on risk ratings. Here are the different projects that we recommend you doing, and it can do 3 or 4 different scenarios and says if you increase the taxes by 2%, this is going to be the long-term impact on your assets that we use to deliver the services to the residents. If you do a 10% increase, it can show you the impact as well and show you the condition of the assets. So I look forward to showing that to council at a future time. And ultimately, again, it's a carryover from 2022. The admin office furnace is in the 2023 budget because it was done in 2023, but it's been done already.
Just, we have a question.
Right?
Craig?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. So Michael, the 15,000 for the criteria module,
Yes,
I can see in 2022, there was a $48,000 budget for that same program. Is that correct?
sorry, say that again, please.
In 2022, there was a $48,000 budget for that.
Yes,
And then this year there's 15,000.
yes.
Is that 15,000?
It's not in addition, it would be offset by the revenue coming in so that we're not charging for that project again. It's in the budget because the money wasn't spent.
From 2022?
Correct.
But there's reserve to go against that?
There's grant revenue that's offsetting the
Oh, grant.
majority of it right now.
So
So we're
that's,
spending money that's already been approved.
Yes, but again, it wasn't spent all in 2022, so I'm putting whatever wasn't spent into 2023. So
That money must be somewhere.
It will be when I fill out the grant report and the government sends us money.
so there is a grant coming. And is it 15,000?
The whole, I want to say it was 80% of the 48 in the end. So there is 20% that's taxed in 2022.
Okay.
And we're looking for that report soon.
You okay with that,
Also-
Craig? Okay,
As long as, so you must have adjusted your 2022 final spending of your 48,000 must minus that 15,000. Like, to me, it looks
So-
like we got a total of $63,000 in 2023 and 2022, but you're telling me we're only spending 48.
48 less 15. So in 2022, 33,000.
Yeah,
Yes. So together, yes, it looks like you're doing 63, but you're not.
yeah, and that's. Okay, yeah,
Okay.
it probably, whatever, it's in the budget, but it probably shouldn't be there because the money's still there.
Yeah, and
We're not asking for more money, we're just asking to spend the money we've already approved to spend.
in this
it's set
particular
aside.
case, yes.
well, and down in the revenue, that grant revenue of 10,795. Does that apply to? the-
That, sorry, Madam Mayor, to cut you off, that
No, that's okay.
applies to that grant,
Mhm.
Okay,
that decision criteria module.
okay. Any other questions? Sorry, Philip?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just what exactly is the walkway that we're for $10,000? And is it a necessary need?
So right in front of the, going in the door. The door.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Smith. So the walkway, it would be for the new Public Works office. And what it is just a concrete sidewalk that goes from the existing parking lot around to the back of the conference room. Since that boardroom is shared with all departments, we're trying to separate it. So not every person having a meeting in the boardroom comes through the Public Works office because it's a distraction for staff. It's better to have it separate.
My question is, will you be doing this yourself or will you be putting it out?
The option of doing it ourselves is definitely looking easier now that we've had quite a bit of road projects removed, but we're going to have a little more time. But I would like to keep the budget the same because the more budget we have, the more of that parking lot we could probably do ourselves. As you know, we did not ask to redo that parking lot. If we were able to have the time to do it in-house, we may be able to spend that material on some loads of like recycled asphalt or something to improve that parking lot. Parking lot's brutal. You can barely plow it, but we didn't offend council by asking for that this year.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Okay, next one.
So the next one, sorry, is that LED lighting project, the $100,000 that's currently being offset by reserves. And maybe with more detail, if we look at that, we may need to increase that, but if we did, we just increase the full from reserves.
Okay, what sheet, Michael?
It's still, we were just going to the next one, were we not? At
No,
LED
next,
project?
no,
Oh,
not
no,
on this one,
It wouldn't be there, sorry, because I added it after we did the initial documents. I apologize.
because it's technology and
Yeah.
civic services
So
is
I'll
next.
say I can make it bigger, but it's there right now. I think.
Not enough people.
Corporate services.
Yeah.
Just
Just
Right there.
Okay,
after the $100,000, that's it for corporate services, Madam Mayor.
so the 32,000 for the sound system?
Not done. Yeah, you got that.
Sorry, that's technology, sorry. That was something that was in 2022. That money is coming from reserves, truly coming from reserves in terms that we raised it in 2022. So that's not an extra one that we're pulling. So this will be the only confusing year as in terms of which projects are coming from a 2022 reserve that money wasn't spent and which is truly coming from the general reserves,
Okay,
say it that way.
and this is equipment to replace these.
Yes, and there is an RFP right now that Cindy's been working diligently on with the county.
Okay, good. All right, any other questions? So what's next?
Cemetery. I do apologize, I don't have a paper copy here, so I don't know if it's on page 2 or 3, but I'm guessing.
Page.
Thank you.
Page 2.
Page 2.
So and I know that council can't see it again, but the one thing I love about this program is that you have it at the high level at 18,000, but I can drill in and see exactly what that's for in this particular report. So there's 10,000 in for a laneway that was in 2022. So again, that money is coming from reserve. And there's fencing for Zealand Anglican at $8,000.
So again, Tyson just mentioned that because some of the job, work has been taken out, could the laneway be done by Public Works and be done for cheaper than 10 grand?
Nikki, we can't hear you.
Sorry. So Tyson just said he might have some free time with Public Works. So could Public Works do the laneway into the cemetery cheaper than 10,000?
I am thinking that they might be able to, depending on what work they have going on. Come on up.
Glad I came up. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Gaudy, I haven't seen any measurements, dimensions, any kind of road specs or anything with that cemetery laneway. So I can't speak to the cost of I don't have anything much to do with cemeteries. Willing to help with whatever.
Because I know in past, they certainly have helped with Oconto Cemetery, for instance, putting a road in and things, so. Anything's a possibility.
The other comment I can add is that if Public Works is able to do it and we can save some money, that would go well towards replenishing our reserves.
Well, and departments do work together. They budget separately, but also I know in budgeting, roads and fire sit down and sort of look at what do you have to buy in vehicles this year and what do I have to buy and how can we one take the bulk of it one year and the bulk of it the next year so that it doesn't kill us all at once. Okay, so more cemeteries or? Right,
No, there's
facility.
those two projects.
Okay. Yes, go ahead, Craig.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. So just to confirm, these are both at the Zealand Road Cemetery. The laneway and the fence.
It's the Zealand, isn't it? It's the Zealand Anglican, right?
I would have to honestly double check with
I think it
Donna.
is.
It's right at the corner of Bell Line Road.
Okay,
and
Yeah.
Zealand.
yes,
St.
I'm pretty
Paul.
sure it is. I
But
think
they're
it's
both at the same spot.
yes,
I don't know that for sure.
yeah,
You're asking me, I don't know.
yeah, because I think the
Laneway
one,
should be-
the
Well,
Zealand
it's gonna be
United.
the laneway and.
The laneway is the
Two loads
road.
of gravel and laneway.
Go ahead. Paul.
Now, is the Zealand Road not the United Church up from Bell
Down,
Line?
down further,
Yes.
down past Willis Armstrong Road.
Yeah, so it's one or the other.
Yeah,
It's
This-
one or the other.
Yeah.
but this can't be the laneway there.
I'll find out from the
It-
council.
It's
No.
basically, you drive off the road and you're at the fence.
It probably is the laneway at the
So.
Zealand United one.
I
That
would
was
have
Roscoe
answers that
Garrett's.
Yes, Madam Mayor, it's the same cemetery.
Oh,
So it is St. Paul's.
They're both under the Zealand Cemetery, the code that I have set up. And so one description says fencing for Zealand Anglican, the other one says laneway. And Donna said, yes, they're both the same cemetery.
Well, I would question that.
I don't.
yeah,
Can you
I
ask
think
her if it's
it's,
on Bell Line Road or if it's on Zealand Road?
yeah, I think it's the other laneway. I think
I
in the
think it's the
Zealand because
United.
the United has a laneway.
It has quite a long laneway
Yes, it is.
into,
Because it was Roscoe Garrett.
yeah,
Garrett's.
there you go. Yep, that's not the one we thought it was.
It's the
Okay.
United one, Zealand United.
So, and there is revenue coming from reserves for that. Okay, onwards. Where do we go
It's
next?
for capital in terms of covering everything, at least one,
Okay,
unless Andy wants to.
so the plan was,
But Andy, I think that we have it done separately here on the facility services. Have we went through every one of those items for the benefit for council?
I do have one thing to add that we did get approved for a grant for 10,500 to replace the front door of Piccadilly Hall.
excellent.
Mhm.
I tell you, having mobility issues, you don't understand how hard it is until you have to deal with it. And even 2 or 3 steps can stop people.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's pretty important as I age.
Yeah, because Michael, in this, I see in the spreadsheet, it shows the accessible door, Piccadilly Hall for 17,000. Well, if we're getting a grant for 10,000.
That grant
500.
is shown below, 10,412. The first
Oh,
part of the
okay.
document.
All right,
So if we do go back to
because this hasn't really been.
CEO's
through
point,
in detail.
the top of facility services. Section.
Yeah. That's okay, we'll just, anything,
Michael, sorry, Madam Mayor,
go ahead.
just so I'm on the same page. With the Piccadilly door. In your budget, you're asking for 17,000. And then down below, you have a grant for $10,412 for that. So is the total cost of the door $27,412 or is it 17,000? So really then your ask is like $6,688.
$6,588 is the transfer coming from reserve.
So that's in the,
So yeah, the project is 17, the grant is 10.4, and the transfer from reserve is 65.
Okay, on this facilities page, Kathy just reminded me that Andy went through what he sees as a priority, what he'd like to do and what needs to be done in future. Let's go down through these numbers and let's take out what we didn't approve. Is there, okay, I don't know if I've got the same sheet as everybody else, but Piccadilly Hall, I have no number in mind, but it's 17 something.
No, that's just AOD compliance.
Madam Mayor, if I can suggest that we start at the top where the gray line says facility services, and I'll just bring up the numbers that we haven't hit.
Okay,
Yeah, that's what she was mentioning, because it's just got Piccadilly Hall AODA compliance, but there's no numbers.
Right, so we've changed the project number. So if you're under facility services and you see the $10,000, everybody there, kind of a ball field.
yes.
Okay, so go skip to the next one, 20, and then 10, and then
Whoa, whoa, whoa. See, this is the part that's hard to do
Want to go through it line by line.
because
that's
we,
what I'm trying to do.
okay, you're just going too fast.
Oh, okay. So those things we already went through. Thanks. So what I was going to try and go through was the stuff that we hadn't done for inside the building.
Okay, well, if you can sort of mention that to council, which ones we already went through. Because I think everybody's a little confused in the sense as to what have we already went through, what have we not here, I think.
What do you mean by that?
When Tyson presented his capital budget, he went through the facility services section, but only addressed issues that were outside of the building.
Outdoor facilities, but we're all here, so that's, we can go through them line by line, and now that Andy and I are together, we can,
Just
finalize things.
confirm it, that's for sure.
For
Thank you.
Okay, so back to me. All right, so we'll skip over the AOD compliance for Piccadilly Hall. Kennebec Ball Field, what's being done there for $10,000?
Madam Mayor,
Just basic.
last we discussed, it was, it sounded like everybody was in support of, there was, some minor repairs on the backstop, but the majority of that 10,000 was for outfield repairs. So
Okay.
topsoil, rolling, equipment rental.
Okay, Lynn?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I can add to that. I was speaking with the Matsons and they said that this had been budgeted for and they were asked to do this work last fall. And they ran out of time and didn't get it done. So I thought it was just a carryover to this year. Is that correct?
I did budget for it last year, but it didn't get finished.
So are the Matsons still ready to go? So we better put this money in. All right. Rink, 20,000.
You want to speak to that?
What's that?
So there's 20,000 in there, it says fix the shed.
That's it.
Fix the shed. This is the one we talked
Sorry,
about.
I can speak to that one. That is for the Arden Rink Shack. I think it was due to inflation. We spent all the grant money on just the rink infrastructure itself and ran out of money in 2022 to complete the actual shack facelift that needs to happen for safety and just a nicer facility for that rink shack.
Okay, and we talked last meeting about materials and maybe volunteers to do some of the work if there is that skill within the organization of the rec committee. Lynn?
Yes, I've spoken with the rec committee in Kennebec and we are working on getting some in-house people can help with this. We just don't have the details of it worked out yet, but I have volunteers that say they would like to help with the work. And I'm working on some of the materials too. So it'll be a collective thing we can do together.
Good. So we'll leave that there. It shouldn't cost 20,000 in the end, but it's there if something should go by the wayside that we hadn't planned. Maybe, is there anything on there that people want to question instead of going through it one by one? The total dollars is $423,400 with a grant of 10,000 coming off that. 93,000 grant, which was the rink in Charlotte Lake, and transfer from the reserves of Central Frontenac Rec. So 400,400 coming off to make a net expenditure of $23,000. Okay, Philip and then Nikki and then Dan.
So if you want us to jump around.
Sure.
The par and fair bleachers, is that the large grandstands or is that the bleachers by the baseball field?
Through you, Madam Mayor, Councillor Smith, Parham Bleachers is a new set of mobile aluminum bleachers. With the current bleachers, the current wooden bleachers that were kind of band-aided in 2022. We're proposing to buy a mobile set that can be transported around the township for other events. In preparation for the failure of someday those wooden bleachers.
So not the ones by the baseball field.
It's new bleachers.
Okay, Nikki?
Kennebec Ramp Hall Library, 20,000. Wasn't that just completed this summer?
It hasn't been fully completed yet.
Okay.
So that was budgeted for in 2022, but it's just not finished.
Okay. Lynn? Oh, sorry, Dan is in there too. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What is this drill a well at the beach for $15,000?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Clagus, it's regardless of whether the Charlotte Lake Beach washroom happens or not, the need for it's been determined that by staff that the need for a well to be drilled at the beach, regardless of the new washroom, should happen either way to save on maintenance costs of the pumps.
Okay, Dan?
The well at the beach, could we not haul from the doctor's office? Like with a trench, like we own the building there, I'm sure they don't use very much water. Also, okay,
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Meeks, that's something Public Works could look into if that was requested. And I think we also, one thing, we'll jump in here, Madam Mayor, it was working better for us when we were going through line by line due to the amount of questions.
Okay. No, Cindy and then Bill. Oh, sorry. Wait, back that up. Dan has one more.
couple more.
Couple more.
Golden Rink, what does that include? Tyson, on the 30,000, what does that include?
That's a project that I budgeted for in 2022 that didn't get completed, and that's to move the services from that pump room with the electrical panel in it to the main building.
Okay, also, while we're talking about washrooms, there isn't any washrooms at the ball field. And the ones at the rink are in very poor shape. So, that'd be a possibility to look at that too, if we got material, if we could do something there as well, or. Also, the boards are. I mean, they're band-aided up. I went up myself and band-aided them up a bit, but, they're almost getting to be a safety hazard there as well.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Meeks, as for the Mountain Grove, I'll try to remember all the questions. As for the Mountain Grove washrooms at the Ball Diamond, those are a rental every year. We rent outhouses. And so that could be budgeted to get something more permanent if council requests. I don't have anything in the budget for that right now for permanent washrooms. The rink boards, I don't have in the budget to we just have enough to continue maintaining and repairing those boards, but no new rink boards in the budget. That's about $200,000 item if that were requested. Not for, that's for poly boards, for plastic boards.
Even plywood boards would be better than what's there now.
So if directed by you, Madam Mayor, I could pull wooden boards for the Mountain Grove Arena.
Well, I think the dollars that are in here, let's see what we can do with them. If we have porta potties at the ball field, then why can't we have porta potties at the rink when they're skating? Or can you move one to the other?
That was my next question, whether we have them at the ball field during the summer and then move them over in the winter time, because the ones at the rink are rough shape.
I agree. What we could do is, I can see Michael already taking notes here. We'll probably increase that, the rental of the porta potties comes out of the operating budget. Be pretty simple. I imagine it's about a 6-month rental. It'd be pretty simple to double that operating budget and move those over.
And there's 22,000 sitting in a recreation reserve that just says rink boards. So we wouldn't be adding any extra tax if 22,000 could be used to fix the rink boards in Mountain Grove.
To continue on with the, sorry, through you, Madam Mayor, Councillor Gowdy, to fix the wooden rink boards. Okay,
There is 22,000 in reserve now.
For Olden?
Michael I was asking Michael last week and he brought it up, and that's it. It just says in the recreation reserve, it says 22,000 for rink boards. So it doesn't say it has to be Olden, Hinchinbrook, Oso or Kennebec. It's just rink boards. They need rink boards. And if there's 22,000 there, it makes sense to use that 22,000 to fix those rink
It
boards.
has to have come from some recreation committee.
No, this comes back from Sean Trepanier days when he just said, start putting in $2,000 a year. So we put that in. It wasn't generic to any one district. It's just simply reserved. We are still pulling 2.4 or whatever it was million from reserves overall. And we pulled 10,000 more or whatever it was. Yeah.
Even though it's all estimated and it comes in cheaper than what's estimated, what happens to that money that's not accounted for? Like, for example, if we're only using 20,000 or whatever out of the rink boards and we budget 30, where does that 10 go?
It's called surplus. It goes into the end of the year surplus. Goes into reserves.
Does that go back in then, or?
It can. So next year, if you budget that same thing, Michael will pull the reserve that we obtained from the taxpayer this year against that, right, Michael?
So I'll just confirm for Councillor Meeks, Madam Mayor, that for 99% of what's in the budget, it will go into the if it's a surplus, it will go into the working funds, which we can then pull out the deficit comes from, or other things throughout the year like CP rail. But if it's a project that's not finished, that's when I, in the past, have always transferred the unfinished amount to reserves in the 1 year and pulled it out in following year. The way that we're doing it now is if we didn't spend, so if we budgeted 30 and we only spent 20, I would only pull 20 from reserves and that 10 would stay in that particular reserve. So a little more allocated than it has been in the past.
Thank you.
Okay. Now I left off Bill.
And Cindy.
Oh, so I think it was Cindy first. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks through you, Madam Mayor. So back to the well at the beach. So if we drill a well at the beach, do we not have to have a water treatment system with that well because the public will be using it? Because I know of all the other ballparks and so forth, the health unit capped all of those wells and said, no, you can't use them. So that's what I'm wondering, what kind of treatment system for if people drink that water, if we drill a well?
The well would need to be tested, and if there was a bad result, then a treatment system would be required, but not always. But there's a good chance a treatment system would be required.
I think the medical center has good water. Do
It
they have a
has
system?
It has a treatment system on it.
Okay, now, Bill.
Thank you,
Bill.
Madam Mayor, through you. Oldham Park Road Ball Field, $8,000.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Everett, that's to finish off the remaining topsoil on that side hill from the 2022 project.
Sorry, this says Oldham Park Road. This is the old ball field. Is that supposed to be the new ball field?
Yeah.
Would have been, when it came into that report, Mike will probably use a old account number without changing the title maybe, or it could have been me.
No, that's fine.
That's
Thank
for
you.
the, it's for the Mountain Grove ball field, right where we did the project in 2022.
Okay. Cindy, you ask yours. Anybody else? Nikki and then Dan.
Philip and I are together on this question.
Okay.
There's nothing in here for the Titchburn rink.
No,
And
because
I know
we
we need to discuss it, so.
have decisions to make on that one.
Okay.
So when do we have those discussions and decisions?
Probably. We're gonna, well, first of all,
Budget related, right?
Yeah.
there's a couple of things. One is the agreement that we talked about at council that was to come back for us to sign for the temporary period for them to use the rink has come back with a number of 20 years on it. So we will not be signing that lease for 20 years because I don't think that was anybody's intention. So
20 years on.
we will be reworking the agreement and presenting it back to the group to see if 2 years would be sufficient. That will give us time to figure out where we're going with the Titchburn rink. Is 2 years something that's acceptable to folks? We did say temporary lease, and 20 years is not temporary. So that's what we intend to do. So once we can get that straightened out, we can have more discussions on where we go.
Well, it's been dragging on for quite a few years. That's
Yeah.
my issue with it.
Yeah.
People would like to see a resolution. I personally would like to see a resolution on it as well. So I agree 2 years is sufficient and 20 is way too much. But is there any way we can speed this along that it comes to council a little quicker and we can make these decisions?
If everybody's agreeable to 2 years, we will put that in the contract and send it back to them.
Can we talk face to face with these people, like instead of back and forth?
Yes, because it came in late on Friday afternoon. And it came in at 20, with 20 years. So I have not got back to them yet. And I wasn't in the office this
Where did
morning.
it come
So
from?
it came from Doug and Rhonda. She delivered it. As far as I know, it was her that came and delivered it to the office
So we have to work that out.
with her. But I mean, if in regards to the discussion, if council's wanting to, wishing to purchase the land to put that rink on, there is a lot of information. That's why I said that's where the discussion, and it can be done here at budget time. Because there is costs if you're going to be moving the lights from where they were onto dry land. You know, there's all those kinds of things in regards to it. But when it comes to purchasing property, that has to be a discussion that has to be in closed session because it's dealing with property.
Craig,
Thanks, Madam Mayor. And what is the issue with leasing it for 20 years as opposed to buying it? As long as we register the lease on title somewhere, then even if they sold their house, that house would be sold, wouldn't it? With a lease agreement to the township for an outdoor rink?
if the lease agreement gets registered on title, it might. But it wasn't registered before the last 40 years.
Oh, I understand that, but
yeah.
we're in the future now. We've got the passes behind us. So let's do it right this
Yeah.
time and let's
The-
register it.
The question we have with it is cost. If we want to keep a permanent rink there for 20 years, then we need to look at what that's going to cost us to do all the reports and necessary things for permanent. And 20 years is permanent in the eyes of the conservation authorities and hydro. And so there's lots of costs that will be more than just building a rink.
But even if it was 2 years, do we not have to get that stuff from the
No.
conservation authority and?
The conservation authority apparently said if it's short term, they would let us go, like get her ready this year, skate on it for a couple of years. But if you're going to go permanent, then there's humps.
Thanks.
And we
And-
had discussions previously in regards to what the cost, because I know Noah did some, if we had to do, you know, doing the, digging and, looking to see what that was. That cost was around the $322,000. So that's at that point, and they were just
No.
estimates.
Didn't include the rink.
No.
And they indicated that they were happy if we were just moving the poles back, digging test holes, and it wouldn't require studies.
Just a backhoe.
If the test holes show that it's not an issue, then it would stop there, right?
The test holes were to tell us how far down we'd have to go to place the hydro poles.
Right. And did anybody talk about the cost to replace the hydro poles?
No, but Bob sent an email out today with the cost that he had gotten. Cindy got that email this morning.
Well, I think we're off topic. We're not going to be settling this until we get. We've got one more day to work on the budget, one more half day. So
Can we
let's-
ask for it to be added to our next council meeting for closed session?
If we
Thank you,
have
thank
the
you.
lease back, it only makes sense, right? Okay, all right. Now, with those numbers with facilities, are we good to leave it or you want to still go one by one? Did we cover everything? The one we talked about earlier was the fairground fencing and what we were going to do with that. So I don't think we need to talk about that one again.
I have just one question.
Go ahead, Cindy.
To you, Madam Mayor, does it really cost $20,000 to refinish the floors?
I don't know.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Counselor Kelsey. I just took a number of $5 a square foot. I haven't actually got prices on it yet. I'm sure it will be less than that, but there is other work that needs to be done in here. I just thought I could stretch the dollars a little bit more than just the floor.
Okay, because I know about like the sander for the floor is like $100 a day to rent, sort of thing. And I know your Verathane, excuse me, your Verathane runs about $150 a gallon, so I don't know how many gallons. And would your cleaner, is that not something that they could do or staff could do that?
Our cleaning company is open to doing the refinishing. As far as regular Verathane, I would suggest using a more durable finish. This was done not too long ago.
All right. Anything else on that page? All right. Now, where do we go from there? Back to Public Works. Okay, so
Are we done?
I-
Facilities and
I
everything
think
else?
so.
But we're gonna go-
So let's be done facilities with the motion. Well, I think if we don't, we will end up redoing it again. Yeah. So how do you write this?
Unfortunately, I can't write a
Okay.
fast enough. with my
So
left
I
hand.
guess what we'll do with this is quote the numbers. So it would be. So
For the project.
that. Council. Help me out here, approve
Approved.
the facility service. Facilities. Service
Capital budget.
capital
Budget projects and. Which projects?
projects. In the amount of
Because he knows the figures.
423,400.
423,400.
Mhm.
And that revenue. Do we need that?
I don't think so.
Okay,
No, it's just the projects. removal.
okay. Who would like to move that and who would like to second that? Moved by Craig? Oh, okay.
Are we not gonna have a conversation tomorrow in regards to the Hinchinbrook rink? Did we not just say that like,
It won't be this year's cost. It would be next year's.
or
Right.
Tichburn rink? Sorry.
Yeah, Titchburn rate could be done on through operation. Like, I mean, we're not finalized the budget yet anyway, so it could be under operating too. Depending on what council, it could be a special, it could be a separate discussion. And then we'll look at the budget to see what it is there, to see what that would take for it.
And all my point is, if in a different conversation. If it wasn't gonna get approved, then I'd want some things off this list knocked off to add Hinchinbrook into the 423-4. Does that make sense? Before we get passion motions. Like we
Well-
don't have all the apples on the table. Is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Or maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. I
don't know. Philip,
So because we don't want to talk about purchasing it in a public meeting, that's why I was bringing it up. Because do we want to, if they're interested in the sale, do we really want to wait 2 years for them to change their mind or do something different?
We can go to closed session tomorrow.
well, I think the discussion has been, and I'm going to put it out here. I don't believe it was enclosed. I think it's been tallied around a few times. Is that the best place for the rink, or should we look at the rink being done in Parham where there's a canteen, where we own the property, where there's there's parking, there's everything there. And why do we want to buy a piece of land in a swamp? It has worked for all these years, but does it make sense? Is that what we're going to be voting on?
So instead of spending a few $1,000s to look after that rink, you'd sooner spend the $300,000 to move it Farnham.
Well, I'm saying that it's not going to be a few thousand for Titchburn. It's going to be much more than that. Maybe not 300,000, but they have a room there that's falling apart. They've got boards that are falling apart. So they're going to be looking for major bucks to make that work. And there's no parking there. It's on a trail. It's a safety problem for kids running across a trail to get onto. I don't know. I'm not positive in my heart that Titchburn is the right place for it. Now, we really should keep going with our budget. Maybe we can add something and further consideration once the numbers are known. I think we're going in blind right now with the 2-year lease.
We're not going to be voting on doing the complete vote on the budget by next Tuesday or in 2 weeks anyways.
Yeah, I would think so.
If we discuss it in 2 weeks at our council meeting in closed session and make some decisions there, we can still make some adjustments to the budget, correct?
Yes.
You can live with that.
Does that satisfy? For now?
For now.
Okay. All right. Oh, Dan and Susan.
Mine is not related to the rink issue. I'm just looking at the Charlotte Lake Washroom Building, the 15,000. And that may have been discussed at our last session, but please refresh my memory because we have a private committee that's looking at, or a committee that's looking at that. So is this 15,000 for repairs or what's it for?
Through you, Madam Mayor, Councilor Irwin. The 15,000 is currently a placeholder for like engineering and design costs for a future washroom building. That's kind of awkward timing of the committee finalizing their concept and their location and the feasibility of that future building. But we didn't want to miss out on an entire year of, the committee didn't want to miss out on an entire year of planning without a small budget to work with for engineering and design.
Thank you, Tyson, for refreshing my memory.
And just to add to that, we have a line into the lake now that 3/4 of the time messes up or plugs, and we get washrooms at big events that the toilet stops flushing, and it's just, even though there's all that water there, it doesn't work well to service the beach area for flushing toilets even. So it is time to do something. So, oh, Dan?
If you drill the well, would you not need a building for the filtration system as well, plus power there too?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councilor Meeks, the current washroom building is structurally sound and will continue on as a utility shed.
One more.
Oh, one more, okay.
At the bottom of the page, the ballpark, 93,400. What does that include?
That's the also ring.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Philip,
Yeah, it was just to piggyback on Danny and Cindy's comments about the well and the water. If the medical center is already being treated, and that's part of the reason why the washroom facilities have been gunked up so badly, probably makes sense if we can trench across and run the water from there.
Absolutely worth looking into for sure. I don't imagine the cost would be much less, but definitely worth looking into.
we're not gonna accomplish anything. Okay, I need help about what to do. I think we need to start putting some solutions to the numbers in front of us, or we'll be talking about these same things 3 months from now, and Michael will have our throats. Nothing that we do today cannot be re-looked at before the final motion on the budget. What these motions do is simply take the discussion for that category off the table for now.
Then instead of being approved, just council consider the whole budget. Right, because we have to do final numbers, because you don't make, they might have to cut.
But for now, that is the final number unless we adjust it, which we can come back to do. Lynn?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to make sure that at some point we do come back and have a conversation about the recreation needs study. I just want more explained about that before we decide to spend $30,000 on that.
Madam Mayor, that was on my list of questions as well. What's council's final, or not final decision, but the council's thoughts on that?
Anybody want to take that? Nikki?
I think we put it off. I think it comes out. I think that we need to wait till we get the central, the central rec committee going, let them have a shot at it and of figuring things out. And 30,000 is a lot of money that could be diverted someplace else or just saved.
I agree, thank you.
Lynn?
I agree with Nikki 100% that we need that central rec committee up and running, and let's see what they can accomplish before we jump outside of our own.
I'll tell you my opinion on it is this study might help us make a decision about having 4 rinks in 4 little hamlets. Can we afford that? Can we afford to keep going? And it's like anything, if you want to be one township, maybe you need to start sharing with each other. Like when I look at the rinks, if I were doing a consultant's job, I would draw a circle and see what the distance is between each and see if in fact we really need to spend $300,000-$400,000 on 4 of them. Or could in fact 2 go to utilize one and 2 go to utilize another. Maybe someone else do the pickleball or someone else do that kind of thing. I just think we're not rich, but we're starting to expend a lot of dollars to play. And I think somebody who's not connected, and it's a tough political decision for us. Susan?
So relying on township staff, this has been put into the budget as something we need to consider. I think I need more explanation from the staff as to why this is in here, what the expectation is of this study, taking into account what Councillor Gowdy and Councillor Clagus and Craig too, you were in there as well. So just to give me some context, please.
Through Madam Mayor to all council, a recreational needs study was put in the budget because of the, actually it was a really positive thing in the last couple of years, is so much interest in committees and so much interest in recreation. And it's starting to get outside of staff and council's wheelhouse on how to make these big decisions when it comes to, you know, we're putting, if we were to do every councillor request, we'd be putting 2-3 million into 4 rinks in 2 years. So, and which is great if we had the money for it, but outside of just rinks, we've also got ball diamonds, we've got parks, we've got pickleball, tennis, and the future of outdoor curling, this croquet curl, that kind of stuff. So recreational needs study looks more like all the municipalities in the province to see how they operate and what works and what doesn't work for dollars spent per population on recreation, and how far people will travel to use recreational facilities, and lots of other stuff like that. So now I do agree with some like counselors that the study is only as good as what we can put our trust into. It's going to come back here for political decisions anyways. So staff, we're happy either way. It's outside of staff's wheelhouse to be able to decide for council where to allocate hundreds of thousands of dollars for recreation. It's but it's not it doesn't need to be a negative thing either. It's good. It's a good movement that we've seen through COVID for all this interest in recreation. So
Lynn has a question.
Thank you. Can it not be the mandate of the Consolidated Rec Committee to keep that in mind and try and consider that as a group? Because I'm all for us merging our resources together where we can, and that can be part of what that committee is going to try and accomplish. So maybe we do need the road needs study at some point, but we could start with just our inside of our own group.
That's the plan. I think the Central Frontenac Recreation Committee is going to be meeting. That is on the agenda. I have already been doing some research and looking at in regards to recreational needs studies, and it takes a lot in, and Tyson's right. It's not just talking about recreation facilities. It's talking about our halls, our boat launches, everything. And you look at it as a whole picture. South Frontenac just did one in 2022, which I was emailing back and forth with Tim La Prada. I mean, that $30,000 in is basically just a number. We would have to go to an RFP probably if you're going to get a company. Some of them have engineering companies. We did have Dave Morgan. I had Dave Morgan come to speak with the managers in regards to recreational needs study. Dave Morgan, actually, they have a cottage on Eagle Lake. He is retired, and that's the kind of work that he does. He helps do consulting work for municipalities or for other companies. That's what his job was when he worked for Pittsburgh Township and the city of Kingston. So he understands that whole realm about recreation. So we did have a discussion with him. And I mean, he's certainly willing to help, but we'll have to discuss that further with the Central Frontenac Rec Committee. And we're going to be meeting, and that's one thing that's on the agenda.
Philip.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So maybe this is similar to my thoughts on the planning position, is have the Central Frontenac Rec Committee get together and with these district rec committees and formulate some ideas about what they want to see perhaps in a plan going forward, and we can work out all those details over the next year and be more prepared for a budget item the following year.
I hope that's the case. We have not had good experience in the past with the Central Frontenac Rec Committee because, again, it's to get the chairs or whoever's other than the counselors who are chairs or co-chairs to the meeting. So that's a big obstacle to get over. Not that we can't, but it's going to take work. Tyson.
Question through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Smith. If I agree that I would be comfortable putting the recreational needs study on hold for 2023. But would councillors be comfortable putting large rec projects on hold in that meantime? Because there's that comes down to quite a bit of pressure on staff in the meantime to make these political decisions, and it takes a lot of work even to estimate all these projects. If we're putting a rec needs study off, I think either way, we either need to wait on large rec projects until we've got the study complete, or until we make a decision and say, we're gonna take a look at it with Central Frontenac Rec Committee united. But either way, I think large rec projects have to go on hold until that's decided. Well, I just, through Madam Mayor to Councillor Kelsey, we're all in the same 5 minutes here. We're being asked to, why is there no money in the budget for Titchburn Rink? And, which I'm in support of all these rinks, but, and then we don't want to do a rec need study, but why is there no money in the budget for Titchburn Rink? And I'm sure next we'll be talking about a ball field next year. It's just, there's a lot that rides on that, so.
Craig, you had your hand up.
Yeah, similar to what Cindy was asking, I look at the list of stuff that's on our budget right now, and I don't see one major project. The biggest project we have is the medical center roof because it leaks, band shell floor and roof. Recreational needs study and the bleachers at the Parham ball field. So I look at this, I don't see for 2023 that there's any big project on the books as in recreational, minus the talk we've had about Titchburn Rink, which my understanding is they've already did a fair good bit of fundraising. And I mean, if the band shell floor and roof held off 1 year with their fundraising money and from talking to them, we'd probably have a rink next year.
Nikki,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And also, there's a Trillium grant that's gonna open in May and close in June for recreation. And so you're going to miss out on an opportunity. I see what you're saying about a study. I still agree that leave it to the Central Rec Committee to do these, but we're gonna miss out on an opportunity for a grant. Like, I know that Hinchinbrook Rec or Parham Rec has all started getting stuff together. They've got somebody that's willing to write the grant in place and stuff for it. So they're not really, the only money we would be asking for is to help with the purchase of the property or wherever we decided to go that route. So to say there's no large projects, it's kind of a kick in the teeth when there is grant money available and stuff available to apply for.
and what kind of a grant is it? Like a 50-50 or?
Nope. It's a straight Trillium grant of up to 150,000.
Okay.
And when you use something like grant match, that's where you have to put money with it. But like Parham has $40,000 they've fundraised over the years for a rink, and they've stipulated it's for a rink. So if you did have to match it, they have 40,000 to go against it for it. They're not coming to the taxpayers saying, give me more, or we want more. All they're looking to the taxpayers for is help us get a piece of property or decide where it's going to go.
Somebody else had their hand up? No? Okay, I think I have a solution to the motion. Council approves the facility services capital budget projects, period, no amount. Which leaves it open for future coming back to it, but without a dollar. And it lets us set aside facilities. And we haven't got to the big ones yet, which is fire and roads. And again, these motions are to sort of end the discussion on that for now, and then move on to the other three. And then we can come back and change any of them because we won't put a number. Does that sound satisfactory? All right. Somebody move it, somebody second it. Okay, seconded Cindy. Moved by Philip. Yeah, and taking an amount of out. All right, I have a motion, and it's by Philip and Cindy, that council approve the facility service capital budget projects, period. All those in favor? Whew, that was work. Thank you. We'll be back here till doomsday. No, that'll be this is just capital.
Right now.
Yeah. Okay. Public Works, is that, did we not do it for corporate?
No.
We're doing
You
it
want-
now.
You want one for corporate that will include cemeteries too? That's not. Like maybe say, yeah, with corporate, which includes cemeteries. There's September cemeteries and technology. And I think that's it, yeah.
All right. So,
Sorry,
go
Madam
ahead.
Mayor, just wondering why you say we're approving it. Why not a preliminary approval?
I don't think it has to say preliminary because these motions are just what was in front of us today. So if there's something that changes today, then we will be re-looking at it and changing it.
That's why we have to consider it. Consider the capital budget.
Then you don't even need a motion because it's not a decision.
No.
Okay.
It's a way of putting an end to the discussion at this point. And going with the numbers, just shut up. And going with the numbers that,
get ready to do more motion and save a lot of talking and do public works, fire services, and we'll go home and then we'll talk about it later. That's all we did there. We just put it off.
Because Michael can. do it
but
in
there,
regards to
there will
special-
be, there will be some changes, but capital is capital. It's not that huge in respect to the operating budget. And if we're at 2.9 with the numbers that are here, 2.6, then there might not be a lot more conversation if we can do what we've got on these pieces of paper. Okay,
Yeah, Madam Mayor, but I think like there needs to be conversation on if we're at 2.6 with these numbers of maybe utilizing some of that money for other projects that the community wants as opposed to what's on these sheets of paper.
Or you could add stuff to it.
what things do you think the community wants that we haven't covered?
Rankin, Titchburn.
Oh, no, we're covering it. We've been talking about it for a long time.
It's gonna be
Not
discussion.
just since you arrived. We've been talking about it a couple of years.
But there's no money in the budget for it though.
Not at this point, no.
Pickleball court in Charbel Lake.
There's no money in the budget for pickleball. No,
Other roads within the,
we're getting to roads
Okay.
now. Okay, so the motion that I propose is that council approve the corporate cemetery and technology capital budgets. Bill, you'll move that? Seconded, Susan? All those in favor? Carried. You're going to have to trust us that we will go back if there is a need to go back to change the overall approval. A promise. All right,
Because council may wish to add other projects in, depending on, the comfort level in regards to the percentages.
okay, Public Works. Do we have a new sheet, Michael?
The rest of it's from.
So. What, can you tell us this, out of the list that we worked on, what is in? Just tell us what is in. No, we're going to first of all find out from the last discussion what is left in these proposals.
So I don't have the paper copy with me, unfortunately. I have the public works up on the screen. So if you go to that section, you might see here that $350,000 is the first item for the road 38 corridor improvement.
That was left in,
That's still in there, yeah.
so 350. Okay. And what else?
Next item, I have 6,000 for computer replacement.
Okay,
A 1-ton pickup truck, 88,925.
So the next one that shows up on this one, Michael, that they're seeing would be the Westport Road resurfacing project. It's called Pave Westport Road, but it's a Westport Road resurfacing project.
So the next one I have is, as Tyson talked about, the paved Westport Road, 763,335.
that's in.
That's still in.
And then I have a 2022 tandem truck for 283,265.
I don't see that.
Better, no, it's, I thought, I don't think they're seeing
Copy?
in this.
Everything should be listed.
Yeah, he's got.
Yeah,
Is that a carryover?
I think yours might be. The next, council, just correct me if I'm wrong, but the next one you see is wheeled excavator, project 51.
So the 283 is one probably that I added in from reserve because it's part of the unfinished road projects that was in 2022. So that's why I'm seeing it, you're not.
That
And what-
truck, and I can explain that further. It's a truck that was actually ordered back in 2020 that didn't show up until 2023. So that has to be carried forward and then paid out of 2023 budget with the money that was budgeted from previous years.
So that money was already set aside.
That's right.
Okay, so that equals no cost. In and out. In and out. Well, no, it's unfortunate, but we don't do nets. Nets are there, but they're not easy to find.
Yeah, I know, but we're basing, Madam Mayor, we're basing
2020,
tax
either late 2022
increases
model. Actually, you have to ask this through the mayor.
on money we're spending in the budget of 2.6%. And here we're adding $283,265 that we have set aside already.
We've already charged that to the people. And that's gonna offset the truck now. So the cost is in, the money is in the bank, it's a zero cost this year.
But it's gonna be part of our overall budget number for 2023.
It will add nothing to our budget. Because the money's already there.
Okay,
Yeah, the net is hard to see. Because it comes at the end. Okay, so
We had in those.
what was it, 283?
283,265.
Okay. And then
Obviously.
890,
Next, I have the wheel mounted excavator at 359,44. That is finishing the lease payments to the 12-month mark and currently purchasing it. We did get information and did do an analysis, and it would cost us 20 or 30,000 more if we took it to the 2 or the 3-year mark. So that's still.
Those were changed, wasn't it? Because in this one, it was 389.
Yeah, so thank you, Kathy. Couple conversations going on here. What I realized is we had 12 months worth of payments in because when we set the budget up, we didn't have any payments had gone through yet. Since then, 4 payments have gone through. So we were able to reduce the purchase price or the whole total cost of the project by 40,000, I think it was 38. And we reduced the pull from reserves by 38. So one thing that could help here is going through that version by version adjustment. And I gave council a summary list, but I can bring up the report. You can't see it very easily to what we're pulling.
where's that printout you had?
I gave it to Michael to show. He wanted that one there.
You want this one?
This is far more complicated than just where we left off last time.
We did. I think the best way. I would look at that sheet and go through, and if there's any questions on it, or say, like, we had a couple different notes here about drum roller, diesel plate packer, tool zones.
What-
We wanted to.
Michael, what if I took them through the sheet that they've got in their hand, and then if there's some extra ones, like the ones that carried over, like the truck, we could maybe discuss those afterwards? Does that work? Does that work for you, Madam Mayor?
I have no idea what would
So
work.
this, the sheet that, let me try to help out here. The sheet that Michael's got on the screen. I hope is the same one that you're looking at in your hands. It started with $350,000 road corridor, went to $6,000 computer replacement. So we left off on our sheet with the wheel mounted excavator. Is there any other questions about the wheel mounted excavator?
Not changed.
That's
reading on.
I thought we said we
I
weren't
thought-
gonna
yeah.
buy it.
I thought we said at the last meeting, we were gonna lease it for another year. And then we'd look at buying it after that.
I have a note here. Is this a need? That's what council said. Is this a need?
Bill,
Because it would cost about 100,000 to rent for another year.
He also just said there's gonna be a $30,000 interest charge if we carry it over for another year.
a 30,000?
Yeah, Madam
Interest.
Mayor, so I believe we talked about still looking at the options. I didn't have a note to clear direction to pull it. Like a lot of things in here, there was a lot of discussion on it, but no clear direction. So my understanding or recollection was that we were gonna look into to see if we could lease it for another year or like, so we can lease it the whole 5-year term. If we lease it for 2 years, it's gonna cost another $20,000 over buying it out this year. If we lease it for 3 years, it'll be $30,000 more than what it cost to buy it out this year.
So what do you want to do? Philip,
I'm okay with the purchase. I just want to make sure there's a body in it, operating it all the time.
and Bill?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. He's also just said he's already reduced this total cost by $30,000 from the payments that they've already sent that didn't come off it.
So the net cost right now is $350,944.
350, 944. Okay. So let's go on.
So the next item would be the Oak Lane Bridge repair. Michael will be able to speak better to the, what the county's funding that was gonna help offset that,
I
but,
think we were okay with that one
Okay.
because there was revenue coming back in.
okay.
Okay,
Pavement preservation, 890,000.
I have a question for you, and I know you're not going to want to hear it.
Yep.
But this is to do 9 kilometers. I think that was the number you said.
I'm just pulling it up right here,
Okay.
so I have exact numbers for you.
Pardon?
So the, in the 2023 pavement preservation program, that is for 9.1 kilometers of micro surface on Road 38. It's $72,000 of single surface treatment on various roads that are still in a good enough condition to preserve. CRF, any asphalt rejuvenator was removed. That is $81,000 to crack seal Road 38 before we apply a micro surface. And then 10% contingencies added on top of those projects.
Okay, my thought was, instead of doing 9 kilometers, what if we did 5? And take those savings to do little jobs that we can do in different areas that we've had to exclude for so long. Michael?
So 849,000, I think it was, of that money is coming from the OCIF formula funding. So if we don't spend it in the year, we can't recognize as revenue. So adjusting anything off that project other than the 40,000 that we're pulling from reserves reduces the revenue as well, because when I look at the other projects that are available, there's not enough capital projects in there to use that revenue in this year, which means we can save it and use it another year, but there's not going to be any net impact. So like, if you're thinking we drop it by 400,000, we save raising 400,000, not quite.
No, I'm saying drop it 400,000 on the 9 kilometers.
Right.
Drop it down to 5 kilometers, take the difference, that 400,000, and do some capital work on some of the other little high
Okay.
roads.
Michael, can you assign that? Can you assign those dollars to other projects, or is that?
Why couldn't you? It's roads.
It's, I can see Michael's a little reluctant, but and I agree, Wise, it all has to be done. So removing the 4 kilometers, drop it down to 5. We're just going to be asking for it next year. That's a program to try to get the 36 kilometers. for the
I
38.
totally understand it. I've driven it. It's excellent.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, there are small things that can be done that are capital, because we don't have the money in operating, that we could maybe take that 400,000 and do a half a 2 kilometers of the Arden Road, or do something else in wherever. Just like Rome wasn't built in a day, and it'd be nice to do 30 kilometers of all this stuff. But if we could cut back, and I know 38 highway is an expensive highway, but if we could crack seal and do the best job we can on 5 kilometers, next year, hopefully, we will be in a better position to do 15 kilometers of 38.
Madam Mayor, I think we have similar strategies. I think your strategy is just 1 year sooner. I want to do the same thing and spread that, but I just want council to remember, I had $10 million worth of road projects that needs to be done. This is already reduced quite a bit, and I think jumping around to small sections of road, any smaller than they already are. If we want to do it to reduce budget, I understand, but I wouldn't take away half the budget of 38 just to jump over to Arden to then come back to 38 next year. I'd sooner just make sure we accept some of these longer term
I
plans.
do not want you to reduce the budget by that 400,000.
Okay.
What I want you to do is take that 400,000 and do a couple of small jobs someplace else. I want to tell you, and this is being old. When I moved on my road, the plows went by probably after a major storm. We were 2 or 3 days before we got out. There were spots where you drove, you lost your car and you had to go get the neighbor's tractor to get it out. Over the years, they've done sections and sections and sections, and now it is a perfectly fine road. It's a little hilly, but so that road would never have done a big job because it didn't warrant it. There were like 5 people on it. So sometimes we get caught with, let's go big when maybe we need to go small. We need to do pieces that irritate people the most. I've driven the first part of Arden Road into the village, and it's awful. The potholes just kill your car. And I'm sure every ward has some of those. So if we could do 4 $100,000 projects on that 400,000 we're going to put someplace else, I think it would make people feel that we've done our very best to spread it around. Bill.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm also seeing not on here, Zealand Road resurfacing, which could be one of those projects.
It's through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Everett. Madam Mayor, I'll speak to your comment in a minute. Councillor Everett, I'm not sure where Zealand comes up, but that project's complete. There's no work scheduled for Zealand.
It hasn't been covered, like last year you took apart Wilkinson and Zealand. You resurfaced Wilkinson, but Zealand hasn't been done yet.
Oh, there's no plan to resurface Zealand at this time.
Thank you.
It would need a full, and the reason not because I don't want to, it needs a full reconstruction, needs a base and a surface and ditches and centerline culverts. And Madam Mayor, I work for council. I'm gonna take whatever direction you give for which projects to do. But I think recommendation to stick with our pavement to invest in our pavement preservation. I think that's going to keep us away from the situation we're in right now, 20, 30 years from now, if we can preserve the good pavement we have and let the pavement that's failing this year continue to fail this year until we can properly do the projects without high mobilization costs of jumping all around the township.
Craig and then Philip.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, yeah. I was gonna touch kind of what Tyson says. We gotta keep in consideration jumping around. There is a lot of cost with mob and demob and setup costs and all that on projects. I'd like your idea and I know what you're getting at, but we just have to figure that out. Cause there is a lot of little roads that, like even the road I live on, Brewers Road, it's awful. Wagner Road, and they're like high tax paying people down on waterfront properties that are just beaten, and I'm sure you guys have them in Kennebec and everywhere else, right? That are pounding their cars every day just to go back and forth to home.
And
And then you get in your car and you drive to Kingston, there's not a bump on 38 highway. And everybody says, what about my road? I can't even drive on it.
But that's a very expensive road if things go really wrong.
Oh, no, I understand that, but I'm just saying, I know you're.
Yeah,
just have to
I'd
take
love
in
to
the-
do it all, but I'm just trying to find a way to spread it out so that everybody gets a little bit of something, especially if we have grant money coming in to do it. This is the year to try and spread things out because it's a tough year for everybody.
So-
Philip,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One question, the surface treatment on the various roads, do you have a list of roads that you have planned to do the surface treatment on? And then to the mayor's comment about spreading it around, if there's less capital projects, does that free up the public works department to go out and, you know, take a corner off here or take the knoll from here? I traveled Ramo Road in the fall and you guys were doing a lot of work on a section of it yourself. So that's the type of work that we could probably engage ourselves and do a little bit here, a little bit there and improve the roads overall.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Smith, I'm just trying to pull up our single surface treatment roads. It's in a different Excel sheet, but I think this is the most recent one. Wemp Road for 600 meters. Westgate Road for 1.2 kilometers and Elgin Young for 800 meters. That's all that the 72,800 does, and that's what's been deemed by our area our supervisor and our area foremans for roads that are eligible to be preserved by a single surface treatment this year. Can you say the other question again?
It was about using public works staff and equipment to do minor
Yes.
projects like you did on Ramo Road.
Absolutely. I can take that direction from council. I prefer to have, I'm sure you've noticed over the last couple of years, I have removed those $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 budgets for ditching and hoe ramming, and it just seems so unplanned to me. My strategy has been to increase a road. The road that you're mobilized to, that you're working on, is to increase the ditching and hoe ramming and culverts that needs to be done while you're there and restore that surface so that surface doesn't deteriorate because there's no ditches, because there's no, and let those other areas try to see what we can do to let those other areas wait until we can get there to do a project. I think it's better long-term planning to focus on the roads that we're doing capital projects on, but we can go back to the old way of having higher operating budgets for hoe ramming and ditching if that's what council's request is. As a new council, the last council seemed supportive of focusing on the road that we're doing, putting the capital money into. And I'll give you a good example. I don't want to take too long, but say you've got a surface treated road, let's say Brewer, that's been surface treated for quite a long time. There's areas with poor ditching, poor drainage, culverts need to be replaced. If we can hold off, then that whole road will get the proper attention it needs to when we put that new surface on it to make it last longer than they've been lasting. That's been my strategy to try to save for long-term savings. But I don't know if that makes sense to you or not.
what if we ask you, and this is only if people agree, that 400,000, could you come back to our next budget meeting tomorrow and give us an idea of what roads you would put that 400,000 on and what you would do with it if you had it? Not saying that's going to end up to be, but I just think to be educated about what 400,000 can do. Maybe it won't do anything.
Madam Mayor, I can answer that right now. These are the numbers I came to the first department heads meeting, and some of them I came to the last 2 rounds of 2 years of budget. Bream Street, $39,000. Henderson Road North, $840,000. 509 North, 950. Matthews, oh, that's a different one, sorry. Arden Road resurface, 519,000. Brewer Road, 296. Thompson Road / Hill Top Road, 218,000. Wagner Road resurface, 276, Dixon Crescent, 73,000. Those are all the ones I wanted to do this year.
Just a little list. Nikki,
Tyson, will any of those roads qualify for the Disaster Mitigation and Adaptation Fund, which is to help communities withstand natural disasters and climate-related risks? So do we have any roads that our beavers are going to do a natural disaster on? Do we have roads that the culverts are getting close to, that if we get heavy downpours that need work, that we could change it and fit it into this grant that's open right now?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Gowdy, I haven't read the entire grant to see if road projects could fit into the natural disasters. I can.
is council agreed to have Tyson bring a list or not? It's okay either way with me.
Sorry, a list of,
The list that you just went through, knowing you have $400,000, what would you do or how would you make it work in there?
sorry, Mike,
Pardon? I saw that. There was, I think there was one that was under. But again, do we have to do the whole road or could we do half of it this year, half of it next year? Like in Arden, on the Arden Road, if you could do a kilometer of the potholes. But it's more than just filling potholes.
sorry, council, computer died there.
That's okay. We're
Um,
fading as well.
Madam Mayor, I can get the list. I can get this list. Well, Kathy's got the list, but I can get this list to you right away.
Okay. Now, does council want this or is it just a pie in the sky?
I know what they're asking.
Yeah. Okay. Who thinks it's a waste of time? Okay. I know Tyson thinks it's a waste of time, but that's okay.
So, political strategies can be higher than infrastructure strategies. I totally understand that. I'm just presenting to you what's the most cost effective long term, but I totally understand and I can get you that list. My recommendation would be as much of Arden Road or Henderson Road North. That would be my recommendation, though, between those two. If it ends up being, I think it's gonna come down to Michael on how much exactly we are gonna be able to remove to get covered. And I can fit one of those, any of those projects, they all need the work. We know they all need the work. I can make that money fit in any of those projects and we can go from there.
Okay. Craig,
Put a loop into everything. What would the odds be of giving 38 highway a complete year off
oh,
and utilizing the full 890 on these ball joint popping tire blowing roads that we all drive every day, and 38 that we cruise down in on bicycles and rollerblades?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Middleton, it would go against our pavement preservation strategy the council was trying to work towards last year. It would fit our road needs study better, but it would, we've been putting a good focus on pavement preservation, and that's what, it's gonna be 38 million to replace Road 38 unless we get some help, and that's where I think we should focus, but we can take a year off pavement preservation if we need to, but it does set us back it sets us back.
could we,
We're in the time frame right now where Road 38 is still good enough to preserve. The risk is that it goes too far, like areas in South Frontenac, like Harrismith, or you get into that routine cracking like that, then it's too far for preservation.
I'm going to add another twist. Can you seal the cracks without doing anything else?
That's what I was gonna recommend, is to still do crack seal on 38 if we're totally removing it from the preservation, the micro
So tomorrow,
program.
you can bring us back what just sealing the cracks would be and what's left.
$81,000 is a high level estimate.
There's 480. No, there's more than
Yeah.
that. If we don't do it, there's, yeah.
And for instance, I think that certainly it's up to however Councilman Tyson put in the Arden Road resurface. That's 519,015. So if you're looking at 400,000 and if you didn't do small ones, depending on what, because I mean, there's still, council does still, because the budget is not finalized. As we said, we're at 2.6%. If there was a project that was a need, then, and you wanted to increase, put on another, another percentage, you'd still be low at 3.6, because I think when, somewhere around there, but I think average too, Michael, I know when you're speaking with Kelly Watkins from North Frontenac was in Michael's office, going over their budget. North Frontenac was looking at between fuel and salaries, and there was a couple other, wasn't there smaller items just like that alone? They were looking at a 4% increase. That's all. That's got nothing to do with the rest of the projects. So, I mean, it's council's decision how they want to go, but there is that option there available that you could do that if need be.
Philip and then Nikki.
Sorry, just to speak to Kathy's percentage increase. I guess a 2.6% increase doesn't sound like the end of the world. My concern more is how do we keep cutting so we're not going so deep into our reserves? That's my concern this year.
Nikki?
I'll hold my question for operating because I have a lot of questions over the operating budget where I think we could save quite a bit of money and not cut a lot of these capital projects and maybe even increase the capital projects.
As I say, today is just a budget day. There is nothing carved in stone today. We'd like it to be, but it's not happening. All right. Anything else on roads for now? It is, hits 3:45 and I thought I'd have you out of here by 4. Okay, so now we are at fire. Okay. And that is on this, not on this page. Pardon? Oh, there's so much up in the air on Public Works right now. I think we better wait till tomorrow. I think his budget's gonna change. All right, so
Just before we move on, is there any direction to Public Works for work in the meantime before the next budget meeting?
Tomorrow, we're meeting tomorrow, so. They'll look at the operating and then can certainly look at the projects at the same time, then you know what the overall is going to be. Okay,
I wasn't sure quite what you were asking.
I just,
he wants direction.
moving, I want to be able to present to you my recommendation, so I just want to make sure that if there's anything I can do in the meantime for council to understand better, that I've shifted dollars around, if that's a kind of a final thing of keeping pavement preservation away from this budget, I can move $890,000 of other projects in and see how that works, and just looking for some direction.
Lynn and then Craig?
Thank you. Are we gonna continue down this list? Or not?
No.
No.
There's no sense until we get a decision on what we're gonna do with that, because that will give us more funds to say yes to. Craig, then Philip.
Yeah, Tyson, could you just bring us a list of like what you read off there on your computer of those roads and the numbers and stuff maybe for tomorrow or whenever we meet?
Absolutely.
It's fire.
I think same thing, Madam Mayor, just don't change your pavement preservation, just give us options.
Absolutely.
Is it at the top? Okay, so fire is next, wherever we find that.
Oh, yeah, the dry hydrant.
Yeah, Public Works, right there. Oh, there we go, yes. Right down here. Gotcha. Yeah, got it. Okay, so backside's getting sore here. All right, Chris, where are you? There you are.
I don't think there's really anything.
Was there anything on this list that, let's go one by one, 60,000 for protective equipment, 10,000 emergency response with an ice boat. 78,600 was the new communication systems, fire hoses, station equipment, building improvements and maintenance. That was the generator and floor drains. 30,000 dry hydrants, 25,000 for training, 20,000 respiratory protection, apparatus and vehicle purchase, 125,000, and 13,000 computer, for a total of 553,60, 600. And
That vehicle was in that 125 that have
Yes.
to make a decision on, that he brought those.
That's
back
right.
to council.
And I think I talked about earlier about the episode of not having a vehicle inventory and replacement schedule. There was a year where it came upon us like just down on top of us. We had an emergency vehicle go out, which I think was $350,000 to replace that. At the same time, there was, I think, a fire vehicle that had to get replaced. So at that point, administration said, we really need to be able to plan this better. So we need to know the years, we need to know what we're spending in repairs of these trucks and vehicles, and when to start getting rid of them. So that's the behind. Cindy?
So we used to have a schedule like that when Mike Richardson was here with all of the vehicles and stuff. I'm just wondering, are we still working off that, or has it just gone by the wayside,
No,
or?
we have it.
The
Bill?
chief has already, the chief has already provided a copy for all of council, the fire vehicle and replacement schedule. By email, yes.
So that truck is a 208, which is 15 years old and is the oldest piece of equipment, I believe.
Yes, yeah, it's a 2008, you're correct. It's the oldest piece of equipment right now so this vehicle is used for rapid response for medical calls, wildfire, pulling the trailer, water rescue, and so on. So what one of the issues, I guess I didn't explain it well last time, is that the fact that when this truck is fully equipped and pulling that trailer, it's overweight. It's not capable, it's not legally to be able to pull it, what it is. It's just a half-ton truck. The box I showed Councilor Kelsey today, it's right full, like it's just, the equipment is just packed in there. It's very awkward to get at, so it's just not designed for the use of what it's being used for now.
Okay.
It served its purpose, but
And it seemed the big problem with council was that we had quotes or estimates to compare to the one that Chris brought to us. Is that right? And since we brought those, are there any questions about those? Nikki?
My concern with those quotes, through you, Madam Mayor, to the chief, is that all three of those vehicles have high kilometers on them. So they're obviously been, in most cases, a work vehicle that has been used hard. When we had quotes like Philip was on Ford.ca and a basic truck at 65,000 with 0 kilometers, and you're pushing a 220 that has not 70 or 80 to 90 kilometers. That's from a personal standpoint, I find that really hard to bite on. Because you're going to come back to us in 5 years and say, oh, it's got high kilometers on it, we need it replaced.
Madam Mayor, Councilor Gowdy, actually, no, you're not correct. I'll tell you why. It's because the truck that Councilor Smith was looking at is a basic truck that's not going to serve the purpose for what we need. I did my research on that, and so it's a very basic vehicle. So this vehicle I'm looking at right now, and I credit myself on looking at vehicles. I've built a lot of trucks myself. I've bought chassis. I brought them in. I've had them custom made myself. Been doing it for years. So for me to go outside the box to look at a used vehicle, for me, is very unusual at some time, but I've done it before. I bought a used aerial out of Florida for 800,000. I saved 1.6 million. So, and that truck is working very well, I might say. It's like brand new. So this vehicle is 80,000 kilometers on it. It's probably going to last you 10 to 15 years. It's a heavy duty truck. It's got the skid plates on it. It's got all the safety equipment, the anti-roll system, the stable track, which we need. on this truck. It's a health and safety issue for the guys that are running calls at a high rate of speed at times. So we need something that's gonna be, you know, and I don't feel that we're justified in asking for an additional $30,000 or $35,000 to buy a new one. Now, you can keep running the D08 if you want, but quite frankly, it's not good. It's not a good shape. That vehicle I've been looking at since I came here. It's not in good shape, so.
And that 08 could, if there is any life left in it, could be used in other departments.
If it was, somebody would want to use it as just a passenger vehicle,
Yeah.
I would say yes.
But if it didn't have to haul heavy stuff for trailers and like maybe facilities or something. So if there is any life in it, we can transfer it into another department, but not for towing big, heavy things.
I would not be asking for, like, I've only been here a year, so I'm just trying to help this department to get back on its feet. So I'm not here to try and ask for the moon or anything else. It's just, this is what you guys need. Sorry, this is what the fire department needs to keep it going. right
Okay,
now.
any further questions on that one? Because that was the bone of contention. All right, seeing none. The next one is computer replacement of 13,000.
Michael says I have no choice with that. Apparently that's something that IT does. So.
He's our computer whiz. So that's a total of 553,600. Yes. Oh, sorry. Pull that microphone over close because sharing it's not easy.
It's the only one we have. Just to go back to communication equipment, I know we discussed it last time, but is this something that could be prolonged until next year if we were looking to reduce the budget?
Through Madam Mayor to Councillor Smith. So the reason I brought this up, I mean, you could put it off as long as you want. We have a lot of areas that I found when I was on our tour that we have no communications. And I talked to Deputy Chief Riddell and I said, what about up in Zealand Road? He says, yeah, no, there's nothing there. What about up in Henderson Road? Nope, we don't have any radio communication there. So we don't have any phone service either. So quite often I've heard us going on a medical call, especially from the Arden Station up into Henderson Road and up that way, and they're on their own. They have no communication. So this system that we're talking about here is over a 5-year period. So it's been prorated for 78,000 a year. But I would say it's a safety issue that we should be looking at. I would recommend that. And your fire master plan will probably speak to it as well.
Oh, Craig, go ahead.
Yeah, Madam Mayor. Yeah, Chris, I just wanted to confirm that total project is a $400,000. That'll be a $78,600 ask every year for the next 5 years. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And have we had any communication with the paramedic services of what they do in these areas for their communication?
So through the Meredith Councillor Milton. So their system is a digital system that's sort of what we're looking at. But county, we would not be able to piggyback onto the county system. We would not be able to do that.
And does their system work though at least?
Yes. Yeah. And they also do GPS all in the vehicles.
This came up years ago when we were talking about having internet that worked all over the place and towers, and it's not something that's happening quickly enough. And at one point, I think they had done a study to say, in order to bring emergency services, paramedics and fire, the cost was, I don't know, 38 million or $40 million, especially back in the back country like us, because of the hills and the trees, and nobody's moving very fast on dealing with the emergency services part of technology. So it's left to each station to try and get their own.
And our other issue is that our system is pretty antiquated here. It's we can't get parts for any of the radios that are becoming obsolete.
They said that would
Actually,
happen.
District Chief Young told me that Greater Napanee back in 2016, we're getting a new system and they had 10 radios there that they were going to throw out and they'll put them in service. We still have them working here.
Dan,
Wasn't a few years ago, wasn't there radios bought from the city of Kingston by Mr. Robinson? Are those radios obsolete or?
I believe so, yes. We don't have any current radios. I've done an inventory and they're all quite old. So there's an analog system, which we have now, and then there's the digital system. So an analog system is hit and miss with the rocks and with the geographical area that we have. Where the digital system, if we do the repeaters with the towers, which is in the quote, then we'll be much better off. We'll be able to reach these spots that we can't get to now.
Even with the new cell phone towers that are going in, that's probably.
No, we can't seem to be. I know there was one that Deputy Chief Riddell had put up for, I'm not sure what area it was in, but it has improved it somewhat, but there's still a lot of areas that we can't reach out to.
Lynn,
This is in a different category. Are we finished with that talk?
sure,
Okay.
as long as it's in fire.
Yes, it's under the building improvements and maintenance. I believe the other day we chatted about the $25,000 for resurfacing the grates, and that might be an item we could push off for another year.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councilor Pegus. Yes, so I've been talking to the contractor since we met last that did the drains. And they did do some damage to the surface of the apparatus floor. And I wanted them to come back and have a look at it. They did that, and they've given us a credit of $9,000 towards repairing the floor. So the total cost actually of the floor is $60,500. There's an additional leftover cost from last year for the drain.
So the net cost would be covered being pulled from reserves because it was a project in 2022 that just wasn't finished.
Oh, so it'll be a wash.
Correct.
So it's not really 175 then.
So that's the generator. It's in there as well.
Oh, I know, but
Okay.
it's
Yes,
coming out of the 175, 25 of it will be a wash.
correct.
Yeah, it's now actually down to 162.5 because we took that 12.5 out of the budget that now we know it's 9, but we had taken 12.5 out.
Okay,
Still a wash.
Bill,
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. Question for Mr. Myers and the chief. Is Public Works communication systems equally as bad? And if so, can an extra channel be added on your system?
Madam Mayor, to Councilor Eric. Actually, it's a digital system, so the Public Works is on analog. So it probably would not work unless they were upgraded to join in with us to the digital system that would work that way.
Thank you. That was my thought, if their communications is equally as bad.
certainly down the road. Okay, I have to leave in about 5 minutes for a doctor's appointment, but my deputy could take the chair. Nikki, Nikki, you have a question.
So mine's on a different category as well. So you had said the personal protective equipment chief of 60,000 was for coveralls that needed to be replaced. And then you said the respiratory protection is the new masks for the SCBA's.
Yeah.
And you also have in your other budget another 12.5 for PPE. So what is the 12.5 in your operating budget?
So the
PPE?
12.5 PPEs or ice water rescue suits, the dry suits, we have some we have to replace.
Okay.
Just the 60,000 for the PPE is, these coveralls are expensive. They're $350 a pair. Like they're ridiculous price. And we need them. You know, we can't have the guys out in the bunker gear and grass fires or wildfires because of this heat stress, right? So.
But they're really only costing us 7,000 because 53s was budgeted last year and carried over, or actually, oh, sorry, you used 27,210 last year of that. So it's not a full 60,000 that we're. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on fire?
What are we doing with the generator?
It's in here. It's in the 175.
Are we approving the generator? Because I know there was quite a discussion over the generator, so I'm just wondering, are we
Well,
keeping it or?
If I remember correctly, that was to put in the Charlotte Lake Station, which is the emergency management station if there is an emergency and there's no power.
Yeah, I know where it was going, but do we really need it?
Yes,
Question.
I believe we do.
So like everybody else has done, I've just got quotes. If it goes out for RFP, who knows what it'll be, right? So I had all the buildings, municipal buildings put in for the generators. Do we need it? Yes, emergency management is sort of a separate component from fire in the way is the fire marshal's office, emergency management separated from fire service, and they're quite, let's say they're diligent on getting they want things done, they want it done right. And quite frankly, through the pandemic, what was learned here, I think too, is that the medical center was sort of leaning on fire service to help out with things. The villages were helping, wanting us to go out and help. Mayor asked us to go out and drive around and check on people in the north, so, there's a lot to think about. And it seems more frequent that we get these storms now. It's, as we see with snow, right? So.
Yeah, we're not done our emergencies for sure. Craig?
So what does the generator at the fire station not run now? Because I've talked to fire people since our last meeting. The feedback from people I talked to in your fire department is the generator works fine. The white truck's good. What they need, they'd like more money for going on calls, because $15 a call is a little light.
Can you speak to that?
Yep.
I don't know how long ago you spoke to them, Counselor, but they're making $20 an hour now. That's the first thing I did when I came here.
Last week,
Well, they're mid-state.
my fault, $20 a call and $120,000 generator
$2 call, they get a 2-hour call back, so they get 40 on the first 2 hours, and then after that, it's $20 an hour.
to run into a house that's on fire.
Well, they don't run into too many.
I'm against the generator and truck.
Okay. Do you want to, shall we have a vote then? Any other questions on this? Okay, so the motion is going to read that council approve the capital fire budget as presented. Mover and seconder. Bill? Susan? Okay, all those in favor, put your hands up high so I can count. 1, 2, 3, okay? Against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so it's defeated. So now what do? Close up the fire department? On that note, I've got to leave. I want to say, as the person in an emergency that has to make the call, not having a generator that works the way it should, not with a truck or a tractor that you can't get started, is very important. And for the sake of $120, $120,000, to have a generator that is reliable, that shows that we are a municipality that cares when there's an emergency and that we can act, and we have to act quickly. We don't have time to go around figuring out who's going to light the lights. I think we're being foolhardy to not choose that. Anyway,
Do we
I'm
have
out of
that at
there.
our medical center?
No, we don't. But the medical center is much more costly than this. Well, he doesn't run the emergency control center either. But yeah, and they have medicines. That's true.
It's gotta be somewhere in the middle of the road. Yeah, one or the other. I'm good with that. But
Deputy Mayor, I just wanted to let council know I've passed along the requested projects to CAO and yourself. And you can review that email, and if you're comfortable with that, you can disperse it to council for review before the next meeting.
There you go.
This one's easy, Fran.
Yeah, that's an easy one. I'm glad you're taking it.
Okay. So moved by Craig Middleton, seconded by
Susan.
Susan. That bylaw 2023-11 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the special meeting of council be read a first and second and third and finally passed this 30th day of January 2023, and further that this meeting be adjourned until 4 p.m. January 31st, 2023, said meeting to be held at Soldiers Memorial Hall, 1107 Garrett Street, Charlotte Lake, Ontario. And it says,
Or, we're not.
yeah,
We're starting at 9.
so
Yeah,
if you're okay, we'll say 9 a.m.
9 a.m. because we're planning for lunch, so.
All in favor? Carried.